And we're live.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 133 of Fans of Power. I'm the man behind the mask, Joe Amato, and I'm here with my partner in crime, Tyler T Rex Baker. What's going on, T Rex?
I got nothing.
He's like, nothing. Nothing's
I
going
got
on.
it's just like you always try to come up with some sort of like cool thing to say, but I guess just like always, man. I'm excited to dig down deep into this episode and just do what we do every week. Things are going good, in that regard, but yeah, nothing. Uh, Damn it, man!
He's like, dang it. He's like,
I'm about as flat as a. Now I can't even say that right. God, man,
hey, well, while you try to get on your game, let me just first say hello to everybody in the chat room. We have Zen Brown, Zentron, Brad Collins, Eric Amon, Jeff Prime, and Adam Gabbert. So thank you all for joining us. And yeah, don't worry, Tyler will be right back on his game. Yeah, it is. Sometimes we have these starts where it might be a little bit flubbed up, but that happens. I do it all the time too.
Yeah, I guess I'm continuing to draw blanks, man. I think we either need to jump into something here or give me something to work with here because I'm firing blanks here.
Hey, well, all right. Well, before we get into our main topics and all the discussion, I'll always announce if I see something or something's going on. Well, I know that those little teeny pint-sized heroes, those Masters of the Universe ones I told you guys about maybe a month or two, I don't know how long it was. But anyways, they're out in the stores.
Those
And I
mega
think,
constructs.
no, not the Mega Constructs. It's like called pint-sized heroes. And it's like little, maybe pop figures, those like little big-headed things, and they're super small. They're only an inch tall. And
I don't know
hold
what
on.
you're talking about.
Hold on, stay right there because I have hold on, I'm still babbling. I'll show you the one I got. Okay. I got this, well, it was around Christmas time. This little Jason one that came with the
Oh,
Jason.
okay, yeah. They made He-Man ones of those?
They just been released. They have I think 12 of them. FYE, which I don't have an FYE in my area. They have an exclusive faker one. Now here's the thing that sucks that'll probably piss you off because you're kind of like me. These are blind bags. You don't know what you're getting.
Hell with that, man.
Yeah.
Dude, I only got two of the loyal subjects and two Thundercat loyal subjects. I don't have an enemy to shell out, $15 just to repeat the same figure or, yeah, I ain't doing
And you know what? To be honest, see, it's the thing that they're super cheap. But like you said, if
How
you start
much? How
doubling,
much though?
I think they're only like $4 maybe for a little sucker. I think somebody might have to correct me in the chat room, but I'm sure that they're super cheap. So I mean, I guess you can see the other good thing is if they're going to be like how this Jason one is, it's not like things are just painted on. They're sculpting to like the heads. So you could probably feel, you have Skeletor, you have He-Man if you're feeling the bags, but I think there's 12 of them. They had like well, I'll tell you what. If for a second, if you talked, I was going to go to eBay because I know they showed the entire list of those Masters of the
You know what?
Universe.
I wish they would stop making like the cutesy stuff. And if you're gonna make little things, give us something that's reminiscent of Battle Beasts. Something that's got an edge to it, a little bit of
Those were
attitude.
cool.
Yeah,
Those.
not everything's got to be cherub looking, for God's sake. As if like all us adult fans we just want cute stuff.
Yeah, because they've done this with.
Give us something that's got balls. I mean, it doesn't have to be like class, but look at Quake here. That's got attitude.
Oh
Give
no,
us something that's not cute.
hell, well, I mean, I gotta agree with the Mega Constructs. Those, as you've seen, actually have detailed sculpts and look like figures, but
They
they're
do,
always.
but
Yeah.
but given that those are essentially like Legos and you put it together, for $5, all right, I'll buy with that one. But these little things and the loyal subjects, I mean, something's missing here. We're paying $15 for a figure you don't know what you're getting, $4 for a cute little cherub, and $5 for a He-Man figure that you can put together and put him on a stand, put together the weapon. And for $5, you get a cool little articulated figure, and you're doing something with it as
Yeah, and
opposed to just.
I even think the Mega Constructs. I believe that the figures are already figured. They're already in a figure form. You don't have to like pop them together.
I meant like with Skeletor. I remember I had to put together his Havoc staff and the stand, and I mean I only got Skeletor here.
Oh, I see. No, I got you.
But it just made you feel like you're doing a little something with it as opposed to just opening up a bag. Oh, great! I got him again. You set it back on the shelf.
Now,
I
hey,
mean,
if
yeah, I
we
just,
could see them, I would. Now, like the thing is, I mean, definitely, if I could see each one of these that I'm getting, I would gladly get them because they're cool. But you're right. If I start doubling up and I have 7 He-Mans and 8 Trap Jaws, and it's like, then that would annoy me. But I would give the list to people in case they're wondering who they had. They have He-Man, they have Man at Arms, Tila the Sorceress, Battle Cat, Orko, Beastman, a flocked Panther, which is cool, Skeletor, Trapjaw, Merman, and a flocked Mossman. So a couple of them come flocked, and then of course FYE, which I have none of those stores in my area. They have the faker one, of
yeah,
course.
we got an FYE in Roanoke, which is about an hour from me and Nathan. But I mean, are they available like at Walmart or something?
Well, that's the thing. I know they should be widely available at Walmart and Target because, like I went to my local Myers and they're loaded with the DC pint size heroes. They have tons of those you can buy. So, yeah, these are pretty much nationwide, chain wide, but it's just FYE that carries the exclusive faker.
You
But
know,
I
I
think we,
almost feel like if this whole blind bag thing, I think it's gone too far here. I feel like, if you're concerned about not being able to sell all the cast of characters you're making, then make characters that you ought to feel pretty damn confident are going to sell. If this, I just think it's unfair to fans to keep forking over lots and lots of cash, and we're supposed to just hope to God we're getting something that we don't already have. If you're worried about, if we blind bag it, we're not stuck with a bunch of, I don't know, Man at Arms or Evil Ends on the shelf. Well, you know what? If you're worried about that, give us Clawful, give us Mossman, give us Two Bag, give us Spikor, give us Faker, give us Scareglow, give us He-Man and Skeletor, or give us a Flying Fist He-Man. Mix it up and give us a roster that you ought to feel pretty damn confident in, and something that you're not going to be worried about. Oh, let's not make them. If we don't blind, I don't know. I kind of feel like I'm sure there's a method and a reason behind the whole blind bag thing, but I just feel like that's all we've got right now. Other than what the next wave of Super Seven figures that come out, this is all we've got, and we have
yeah,
no idea what you're getting. That's
and you know
just
what? I actually have some people I know that have spent more money on those loyal subjects than just the classics figures themselves because they're
hell with that. No, 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 no,
yeah,
no,
no.
no.
What I mean is, what I'm saying is, you're right. They blind box these suckers, and there's some people that need every bit. You know, some of the collectors, and you know I do. They get so damn addicted that they want to have every loyal subjects that they're buying, and they're just getting tons of duplicates, and they're left with all these extras. And half the time, they probably stick them back to eBay, but they're spending a lot of money to try to get this whole collection. And it's especially when they're like, get the gold chase one and get this anti-eternia He-Man one or the faker. It's like, oh my god, that gets to a lot of people. For me, I don't do it, but I
Well,
mean,
and
there
I
are
almost
folks.
feel like someone could probably say, "Well, it's no different than collecting basketball cards or football cards." Like what? No, what that difference with that is that when you're buying basketball cards, you're getting a pack with multiple options in that pack of cards. Whether it's 5 or 12 cards, you're paying $5 for a pack of cards. You've got 12 chances to get the player that you really want, and you
And
may
you
not get
still
it,
are going to
but
get something new,
yeah, you'll
yeah.
get something. But with these, it's one and done, and that's why I feel like it's a bit unfair. You're not getting enough bang for your buck with these blind buy stuff. They do look good. I mean, I got the Panther loyal subject. My buddy David Taylor gave this to me, or a guy I work with loves Thundercats and He Man. Gave me this Panther here, and they do look great.
Yeah,
I'm not going to argue that, but it's just for what you're getting. I I'm not going to justify buying. And if I come across, Nathan came across two, I think at TJ Maxx for like $4 of the loyal subjects of He Man. Now that I would get behind, and like if I lose $8, okay, fine for two. But it's just something needs to change. I mean, when those Funko 5-inch He Man style Thundercat figures come out, we'll be paying $10 for those Thundercat figures,
and we're
and
going to see.
we're gonna pay $15 for this.
That's what I mean. Yeah, and especially what's great about it is you have those $10 figures for the Thundercats, Conan, and those horror fantasy ones.
Yeah.
The good thing about those is they're not going to be blind box. They're going to be carded right in front of your face. You're going to see what you get. Bam, you got them. So yeah, I'm not too much. I've never been a fan of this blind box or blind bag stuff. I know there's some people that don't care. And hey, if they got the money, then go ahead. But for me,
Yeah,
I like
I'm not.
knowing what I'm
Yeah,
getting.
I'm not denouncing that at all. I can't do it, and I just don't think it's fair to fans, especially when there's not a whole lot for us to put our money towards in terms of supporting He-Man. I'm sure come San Diego we'll get another wave of Super Seven, classics figures that are coming. But in between there, it would be nice if we had something keep us in stores. But man, these loyal subjects and stuff like that. I mean, they're cool, but it's
Yeah,
just
I didn't do
I,
all like. Oh, first, let me say I hope a speedy recovery to JSP. He said he's feeling sick as a dog, and he's in the chat room. And we appreciate you being here. You don't
well,
really have
thanks.
to. We know you're
Hopefully,
sick.
we can add a little chicken noodle soup for the mind there for you,
Yeah,
buddy.
I guess for to make a speedy recovery. But no, when it comes to those loyal subjects, we had that original first kind of wave. But once they started hitting all the different stores like Target, Toys R Us, Walmart, Hot Topic, and everywhere, they were having not only different chases for different stores, but even the figures themselves had slight color variants, and everybody's
Yeah,
like,
that's
"Wow, I
that's
just."
that's bullshit. Sorry, kids, but it is. It's if you're gonna keep going with this, give us a clawful, give us a spike, or give us a clamp champ. Do
Yeah,
not
because what
pull
did we
this.
see coming? I think the only thing we've seen so far coming in their next wave, finally of new, is a Battle Armor, He-Man, and Skeletor. I'm like, oh come on, give us. You're right. We want new characters. Hopefully they'll show some at San Diego Comic Con, but I don't know how much longer they can keep doing the color variants because some people have stayed on board and don't care, but there's others that just quit. They said I can't do it no more. I can't keep buying the same figures over and over with different colors. It gets
Well,
tiring.
oh, well, no, especially when you got to keep money around for guys like this. You want to make sure you can afford this stuff, and that's my priority. If it's not these, it's buying new artwork from Kevin and Axel, and that's it. I mean, the rest of the stuff, it's either going to have to be at a reasonable rate or something extremely worthwhile. And the loyal subjects and the those little things you told me, if I come across them, maybe buy one,
Yeah, because I wish
maybe,
I could quote.
and
That's what
that's
I
it
hate.
though.
I wish I could quote the actual price on them because I've not seen them in person. So when I said $4, I'm just shooting that. I don't know if it's four. I don't know if it's less. I
Wait,
actually
wait.
do
If you
not
didn't see
know.
that in person, how did you get that?
No, the He-Man ones. I have not
No,
seen
no,
these.
no, no. That. How did you get that?
Oh, this one came with a Friday the 13th shirt.
Are
It
you
was the
sure?
coolest thing. Yeah,
Yeah.
it
Are
was
you
at
sure
Christmas.
someone didn't give it to you as a gift?
Like, here we go. He's like, if you say that, Joe, that means you're entitled to get gifts. You better not say gift. So I'll just say, I went to Toys R Us and I bought the Jason shirt with this packed in for Christmas. I bought that for myself for Christmas. Does that work? I didn't say it. It was gifted.
If you treated yourself, Joe, you're still accepting gifts.
But you're still doing it. I want to show you one other thing. This is my this is my special Chicago
Oh,
Bulls
so
pin.
if people want to know the backstory behind why Joe is showing this pin, you have to watch today's Beyond Retro podcast on Jaws that we did, and Joe
Uh,
discusses a childhood memory of someone taking that pin and the wrath that ensued in the
yeah,
aftermath of that kidnapping.
exactly. I was real quick to snap. I didn't like anybody touching this pen. It was always my favorite pen, and still kept it. So yeah, that's my pen. So
I
so
always thought this. I had the most random thought. Like, if we ever started doing ads, how fun it would be if we got you to do ads for Craftmatic adjustable beds.
what? Wait, why is that? What? Where did that come from? Crap,
I,
Matic
I
just
yeah. For some, I had it in my head this image, and it still goes from where you and others will Photoshop your Mojo mask onto like random stuff. And I just thought it'd be funny if someone had superimposed your Joe and the scarf on as someone laying in a Craftmatic adjustable bed, and it just for Joe to be endorsing these beds for like senior citizens, and Joe's like, as a recovery customer, I'm quite happy and satisfied with my Craftmatic adjustable bed.
wow, that
You
sure
know,
came out of left field. That's
I know that's
insane.
what made it so funny, and that's some of the most funny stuff in movies is the stuff that's most random. Like, where the hell did that come from? And then you just
Yeah.
keep going. So I just thought it'd be funny if we ever got to do an ad that we're tapped to do Craftmatic adjustable bed ads. That would be great. I would buy one if Joe was endorsing it on TV
All right. Well,
with like his
I'm not.
with his greasy ass bag of McDonald's on one side, and then he's
There you
got
go.
some like customized stuff over here on the other side.
Just sitting there and just
And a
kind of.
plush Jason sitting in his bed,
I love it.
holding on to it,
I have some
telling the
plush
camera.
plush. Yep, right over there. I have some plush Jason. So there you go. I have
Yeah,
those if
so
need be.
if anybody can do that, take Joe's face and put it on a customer who's sitting in a Craftmatic adjustable bed. I just think it'd be funny as hell.
There you go. All right. Well, I like
No,
that. It
it
was
doesn't make any sense. I don't know why I came up, but it was just a funny visual I just had to share.
what the hell? If it's in your head, let it out. But also,
Why
let me
not?
say, Third Triumvirate Studios is in the chat room, and Who Dat Whale is here joining us. So thank you. And Circuit Recording has joined us. Now, this is the guy that helped. Well, I mean, not helped. He's the one that recommended when I was telling you other topics and stuff to maybe do for the show, he's actually the one that recommended. He was like saying, "Hey, do you think you could talk about Prisoner in the Slime Pit?" Because
Oh, okay.
yeah, because he was asking about the one that we did last time about Battle Under Snake Mountain.
Yes.
But I think that's when I told him, I said, "Well, actually, we did Battle Under Snake Mountain." And he's like, "Well, did you do the other one, Prisoner in the Slime Pit?" I was like, "No." And his name's Brian Little. So it's Brian Little that suggested. So thank you for joining us because we are going to be talking about that. And Tyler, I didn't know if you wanted to start off with Prisoner in the Slime Pit, or did you want to start off with the first story arc in the newspaper comic strip book? Because they're both great stories and have
Yeah, for our current audience at the moment, and for people who listen to this after our recording, we got a lot on this episode. We've got one, two, three, four discussions on top of any other random rants coming in. So you'll get your money's worth, and your ears will have uh, full on erection. I'll just put it that way. It should be just nothing but just titillation for the mind.
yeah,
Stimulation, just to like make you so excited about He-Man and the Masters of the Universe. That's what we're here for with four meaty topics here. So I don't
yes.
care which one we start out with.
Well, heck, let me show at least the big, in case people have not seen the book yet. Here's the
Well, I guess I
big.
know what we're starting out with if Joe's going to go that route.
You could murder somebody with this book. This is the big, giant Dark Horse book that contains almost all of the newspaper comic strips.
I mean,
Because
it's almost like the size of like one of the stone tablets that Moses had. You had like two copies of this. It'd be like the Ten Commandments here.
I mean, you could. I'm not kidding. This just it looks like just something you could murder somebody with. I mean, not to sound insane or over exaggerating, but
Well,
this
you
is
are the guy who's obsessed with Jason with his face behind a mask.
well, yeah. I mean, but it is it's a big book. So if you want to start, because I mean, what's cool is you remember these when they were in the actual newspaper back in the day, they consisted of the weekly strips that were black and white, and then the Sunday one would always be a colored one. So, I mean, through all the work of the people that, put this together, which took a long time, they tried to find every single strip possible. Some, I think they did have trouble finding some of them, so it didn't have every, but I tell you what, it's pretty much complete. Like Tyler, it was only missing a few strips that they couldn't find, correct? There was not many missing.
There was, I think a total of five. Our good friend Sandy Vagina, who's featured in the book here.
Okay.
Yeah, Penny Dreadful, for those who don't know who I'm talking about. She was on the hunt, I think, for those last five. And I believe Larry Houston, our good friend Larry, turned up a strip that he worked on as well, where Skeletor was planning to invade Earth for technology, which was a newspaper strip that was missing as well. So I think she's recovered some of the five that were missing, I think, because we talked to her about this, was it over a year ago, I think?
Yeah, because wasn't one of the people that, if I'm not mistaken, that watched our show when we did a certain episode, they mentioned like on one of the pages where we post, they said, "Hey, I actually bought one of those. I'll
Yeah.
gladly send you the scan." So it was kind of cool. Somebody that was listening to our podcast and went to one of our pages, bam, helped at least get them one. But yeah, I think they'll pretty much probably find the rest. It just
Yeah. And it just if for those of you who don't own this or great, that's what happens when you have headphones on.
What happened?
I end up pulling it out of my ear. That's what happens when I'm at the gym. Like the cord dangles and smacks it out of your ear. But anyway, like probably other than what we're talking about, it's what's so cool about these stories is that they get pretty long and elaborate. And a particular favorite of mine is one that's pretty heavily ninja centered, where he is essentially the main villain of the story, with Scareglow and Blast Attack working with him, and he's working alongside Skeletor in like this kind of deal they've got set up, but he's kind of dismissive of Skeletor and after the Havoc staff, and I'll just leave it at that. Why he's after the Havoc staff, you'll have to find out in this book. But it's Ninja is the sole villain, and he's running the show. He's calling all the shots. He's being successful in his plan. It was just really refreshing to see Ninja. Like, God, man, this character's got so much potential, and they utilized him in one of these stories. So, just a small example. I mean, Blade is in here, Clamp Champ is in here.
Yeah, because they're tying all the cannons. Don't they tie all the cannons pretty much together in this?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, it even leads into the new adventures of He-Man too. So
yes,
stuff that was going on around, obviously, and we'll get into this tonight. Start with like the Rock Warriors and the Snake Men, the Horde. got a lot of Filmation nods in it too. If you're looking here, you see a lot of Filmation styles from the Horde and a lot of the Eternian characters. So they were pretty much really trying to tie in everything that was going on, and at least at the time when these strips were coming out as well. So along with everything that had come beforehand as well. So you see some good nods of current stuff and previous stuff as well. So they do a good job of, and that's what I've always felt like. There should be like a definitive canon that's not trying to, you know, oversaturate and just put too many spices into stuff that's working well. Just put it all together in something like this, where you're acknowledging all this stuff and you're not changing backstories and where people come from and all this stuff.
I wish
You
I
just
could have read them all as a kid because when I was growing up, I only knew of those three other newspaper strips that had nothing to do with this story arc. And then I was able to get one of those strips, but that wasn't even a paper from my local area. That was how you were funny talking about the uncle that comes in town. That was actually traveling relatives when they came to town. They brought a newspaper and it had this one strip and it had a very unique looking King Hiss, where King Hiss just looked like a green, almost lizard man reptile. It was completely different than what you know, and he had like a red cape. So, but these were fun. And just, well, I mean, the first story we're going to basically start off, the first story arc of this entire book that you can look at is Day of the Comet, which shows Stondar, Rockon, Granada, or Granita, however you guys pronounce it. I don't know. Some people want to say Granita because of like granite. But, anyways, they do something which is some people like, some don't. They made them all related this time, which I'm not usually a fan of everybody being related all the
I know, but
time.
with the Rock Wars, I'm cool with that.
But it's fine because we've
I
seen
can
them.
buy that.
Yeah, we've seen it different where sometimes just, they work together, whatever. But yes, Stondar, since he is the eldest, he's the father of Rockon and Granita. And, well, the kind of story, which we won't wreck the whole thing because, trust me, you'll want to buy this book. You definitely want to buy this book so you can read it all. But the premise is, Rockon crash lands here. He's trying to warn of impending danger. You find out that Hordak has captured Stondar and is using him to do something. He's going to have him do something against Eternia, but you're wondering, well, why would Stondar work for him? Well, it's because Hordak also has Grandada captured. And, he's basically, blackmailing, threatening him. If you don't do this for us, obviously we'd kill your daughter. But there's characters that, we've seen sometimes in Filmation, but usually got the real big bad treatment. So at least we got to see him in here, meaning Too Bad, and also seeing Spikor. It was
Yeah.
good to see them in something more, with also seeing that part where I liked when they showed Spikor spikes shooting out of his chest to, fly at He-Man, where He-Man deflects him. I was like, well, that was kind of a cool thing, because I don't think we ever seen this spike shooting in the cartoon, did we?
That was one thing I'm like, it didn't take me out of it, but I just kind of
But it
felt
was
like that's
still
one of the.
different. I mean, it was just,
Yeah, but I just kind of feel like that's one of those things. Why can't he just be a guy with spikes on his body, not a suit of armor, not projectiles? It's just the guy is covered in just spikes. That if he were to go and bear hug you, you're done. You're going into a full sleeper hold and you ain't waking up from that.
yeah. Of course,
I just
they used it into this though, because as you see, when the spike got deflected, it damages the controls to
yeah.
what they're flying the ship. And what's the name of Hordak's ship? Mercy, or what was it called?
I didn't catch a name for it. It was just like it was like a kind of a generic.
I thought they called it the. Oh my god! Now I feel like I've gone nuts. I have to look at the book.
Well,
I thought
when I was reading it, I didn't recall catching a name for it,
I
but
thought they called it the Mercy, even though it sounds like one of the weirdest names for a ship. But I'll let you take
oh
over.
yeah, okay, all right. Now that you're saying that, that sounds somewhat, but it just didn't register with me. It wasn't
Okay,
something
okay.
that I was really. I mean, I was more focused on, hey, cool. There's Too Bad in the background. Oh, look, there's Spikor. Oh, wait, there's Roboto and Cyclone.
And you get
You
to
know,
see Shadow Weaver. How rare was
yeah.
that to have Shadow Weaver in any type of comic format? Not saying she's never appeared in anything before, because she was in some books, including like some of She-Ra's golden books, or little soft covers. So she's appeared in stuff, but. And of course, even some of the hardcover golden books, I believe. But it was just still cool to see her in something else besides the cartoon.
Yeah, and plus, I mean, and I'm a big Filmation fan. The Collector shows up, but they don't refer to it as the Collector, and it's used pretty prominently in it. The Royal Palace looks like the Filmation version. I mean, pretty much Man at Arms, Tila, Adam, Randor, uh, all the horror. They all, and Too Bad and Spyco, they all look like their Filmation counterparts, but they're Too Bad and Spyco are not portrayed as like bumbling oafs. They come off as very competent villains,
Which
which
I
is the way they
liked
should be.
because
Yes.
I
Oh
think
no.
Yeah, because Spike, I mean, as much as I dislike Too Bad's portrayal in the cartoon,
Yeah.
Spike really it just
Spiker was
sickened me.
worse.
I mean,
Spiker was
he was.
worse.
And also, I want to say hello to somebody who's now teasing us in the damn chat room with excitement. And of course, it's Grimbot. And Grimbot just said James Etok might have discovered the reason behind Newspaper King Hiss. So there we go. Now we're gonna have to be left hanging. Now I got to wonder, why did he always look like that? I never knew. This should be interesting to find that out.
Well, I better not find out that we're being told after all this time that King Hiss's name is spelled with Hizz instead of Hiss.
Right.
I better not find out there's some like double lettering in his name, and that we've all been fools, for thinking otherwise here, and that he's been holding on to this information for all these years just so he could point and laugh at all of us.
Right, in case we say something the wrong way and you right spell it the wrong way because it sounds a particular way, and then you see something else. Yeah, that led to a disaster of me trying to do some photoshopping. That didn't work out too well, but what the
Yeah,
heck?
what a maroon.
What a maroon. But go ahead.
But no, it's a really good story, and I mean, and it's they really take their time in this story. Like it's a long story. I mean, it went for over 20 pages of just panels of illustrations and the story that's just building. They and it's a serious story. Like there's no there might be like a bit of like silly dialogue because they are writing it for children. However, 95% of this story in particular is a serious story. It's not done for laughs, not poking fun at the characters. Oh, look how silly and humorous we are. I mean, no, it's a serious situation from beginning to end of what they're dealing with. The Horde, Skeletor. There's an interesting uh, scenario that Skeletor finds himself in, and you're like, "So you're gonna do this? Like, actually go through
Yeah,
with this?" And then
yeah.
you're waiting and waiting and waiting, and you're like, "He actually did it." And
I
which
know what you're talking.
yeah,
Yeah.
and I was just as I'm reading, I'm like, "All right, where is it? When's it gonna happen?" And like, wow, they actually followed through with it, and and I liked it because you didn't feel like it harmed the character. It was just cool to like, you know what? When Skeletor said it, he said he actually did it, which are like, you know what? That's pretty cool. It's pretty cool that they were that ballsy. Like decided, you know what? If we're gonna do this, let's pull the trigger and do it.
Yeah,
Balls to the wall, man.
exactly. I mean, you had different things happening that maybe didn't happen before. Characters portrayed slightly different with different abilities, but then you even also had, well, you also had them following things that we've all known, which I like that they still kept in remember about how the Comet Warriors Stone Darn Rock on that when they go, into their like rock form or to rest, they can charge back quickly. Like once they're in that form, they get all their energy back. They're not going to need tons of sleep. So that was something else that was kind of focused on here too. While us as humans, we're going to need a good charge to rest. All they can do is usually be in that form, and bam, they're ready back to go pretty quickly.
You know, and after reading this too, it's pretty amazing just how high the push was for the Rock Warriors faction, and that we only got the two characters that from I mean 86, which I always for some reason I would get confused that the Rock Warriors came out in 85 and not 86. I believe it's 86. But just how highly they were promoted. They were uh put in everything and another story into the Prisoner in the Slime Pit. They're featured heavily in that. They're featured heavily in this. They're featured in an episode of She-Ra. There's Earl Norm did a poster of the Rock Warriors. There's commercials, and it just felt like they were really making a really big push to push the Rock Warriors to make them well known and yet it's I mean, we did the Rock Wars episode last year, and it did quite well. People seem to really like it. But up to that point, you're always kind of led to believe that the majority of the fan base is kind of indifferent or just dismiss the Rock Wars as if, like, I mean, I always get a kick of seeing He-Man, or kick out, excuse me, of He-Man teaming up with the Rock Wars. Like, I am always excited to see Stone Dog and Rock On in this particular battle because I feel like it's not only an expansion of He-Man and his allies, but they're just cool looking characters. I just like these Rock Warriors, and I still want to see what evil Rock Warriors look like. You know, these are the good guys. What do the bad guys look like? We got evil rock villains in the Rock Lords toy line. We saw what they look like. What would an evil Rock Warrior look like? Is it made of solid black with lines of lava down in them or something like that?
Yeah, that would be kind of cool. That's
Yeah.
what's funny is I think somebody even took a vintage figure at one time and did just what you said. I think they took a vintage Stone Dar, painted him in brown, made lava looks like in the little, like
Cracks
circle
and
indents,
yeah.
yeah, and cracks, and made him look like kind of like a lava, comet warrior. So no, it would be great because the only thing we ever got were, of course, in meteor form, since they all like basically still are people that are all widely known together with the Meteorbs and the Comet Warriors. And of course, we got the five evil Meteorbs. But no, as for Comet Warrior characters like this, no, there's never been that I can remember seeing them. But that would be kind of cool because you're right. They definitely heavily push them. I mean, they're popping up in coloring books and any other kind of medias. And
Yeah,
they
I
were
mean,
around.
I mean, when you go and look at the all the different various types of merchandise that was going on throughout the run of He-Man, they're pushing, some of the more prominent current characters, but there's something about the Rock people. I just felt like, man, they really managed to put them in so many stories and comic books, and I mean, they got a whole issue dedicated in the Star Marvel comics. I mean, you've got the Slime Pit mini comic, where the Rock Wars are featured heavily in that. Rock People to the Rescue. Um, God, I'm fairly certain there's another Rock Warrior mini comic. Am I missing one? Am I missing another one with Rock People to the Rescue, the Slime Pit one,
Did you
and
mention a
then
rock in a hard place? Did you
Rock in
mention
a
that?
Hard Place? I know there's at least three. I almost want to say, oh, they're featured in Hordes of Hordak with the Horde Trooper mini comic.
Yeah, I'm
Why
trying
are
to
you
think of.
just staring at me?
No, no, I'm sitting there. I'm thinking in my head. I'm trying to think of what else I I see. I can't memorize every single one. I
Well,
thought there were
I'm
some of
just
the.
saying I felt like they were really, I mean, heavily used in a lot
Heck
of,
yeah,
and
they
I
were
think
even
I
in
think
some
it,
of them in the Masters of the Universe magazine comics. I
yeah,
believe there were even some of those. So no, you're
yeah,
right. They were pushing them. I mean, definitely around that year. I think they seen the potential in them because I mean, at the time, of course, we have Transformers and
yeah.
and everybody wants to say that it's kind of like the gimmick and then like you said, you have Rock Lords and stuff, but they were fun. And I tell you, I really enjoyed playing with them. As
I did too.
the figures. Yeah, I used to love putting them in front of Castle Grayskull, making them open, and they were the only figures. And I didn't throw it like they're a rock, but I remember I would set up some of the evil guys. I'd bowl them because I seen them
Yeah,
rolling so many times, and I'd bowl them into things or make like a little hill. I mean, they were a blast. They were fun to play with, and yes, they got a lot of treatment. And just like they said, they appeared in some of the episodes of She-Ra and the Princess of Power too. So we got to see it. I never thought of that. That's the one thing we've never said is we've never mentioned. Hey, I wonder what they would look like in MYP. I just realized we have never said that, and that could have been pretty damn cool. I can't believe we never mentioned that.
I mean, to see what the Horseman would have done, like with the Stactions, or what
Oh,
MYP would have done with the Ant. I mean, obviously they would have been similar, but to think like how big the Rock Wars would have been, like
I bet they were
how
being some big boys. They were probably having calyx size. You think maybe?
yeah, I really, yeah, well, hell, probably even bigger than that, because I mean, everything like with those 2-up figures, like Man at Arms shoulder pad. I mean, not shoulder, his shoulder armor was massive.
Mhm.
Just there were everything was just up. Like He-Man's power sword on the 2-up figure was really quite big. Beast Man was just absolutely hulking. Clawful was just a mammoth of a character. So you really feel like if those guys were just, I mean, giants in their own right, the Rock Warriors, I mean, just would have been monstrosities. I mean, they just would have been, you
They've been some
know,
big boys. They would have been some big
yeah,
boys.
they would have been just, I mean, Hulks. They would have been a faction of Hulks. I just how big like the shoulders and arms and how massive like the rock form would be. I mean,
I just can't
not that
believe
they
it.
would be like Megator and Titus, but they
Just
just
big
would
boys.
be.
They're gonna be some big
Yeah,
boys. Yeah, I can see what you mean. They wouldn't be the standard size, standing the size of He-Man. No, they would have to up the scale. They'd have to
yeah.
be those big like juggernaut
Well,
characters.
kind of like the Super Seven. I mean, not well the classics version. I mean, I still to this day am still in astonishment of how good Stone Dog and Rock On looked.
They
I
are
mean, just
great.
how massive they are on the shelf. I'm so proud of those two figures. Like I just love them to death, and just to have them in hand, I really do need to change them, put them in a more prominent spot. Like yeah, I'm gonna have to just redo that whole shelf so that we're standing more close to the front because they just look too damn too damn awesome.
And I'm glad they kept with at least the design of the vintage toys because even though it was great seeing them in the cartoon, they lost kind of like their over the head kind of piece
Yeah,
detail, and that
they
just
look a
kind
little
of
too simplistic in filmation, and I get
yeah.
that for animation reasons, but I almost feel like with filmation, like they seem to capture the vast majority of the characters. Like Mossman looks too much like a cuddly character as opposed to like the action figure and what you would see in like Earl Norm's paintings in various media. Um, Clawful looked great. Cobra Khan and Webstore looked super bad. So did Buzz Off and Mechaneck, and they maintained their badass appeal. And Cyclone looked good, but there was still something that's a little too friendly for Cyclone, even though he's a good guy. He's just missing some of that kind of badass appeal. And just like with Mossman and Two Bat and Spike Ore, they all have that kind of very harmless look about those characters, where you kind of feel like, man, they're not very threatening characters just based on how their face looks a lot. They just
I
don't
was
look as.
disappointed. I mean, there's a couple I was disappointed with, but I remember Too Bad did let me down a lot in the cartoon of his portrayal and his look. Because, like you said, it was almost friendly, happy. I wasn't scared. Like I look at that toy, and you look at those nasty,
Oh
menacing
yeah.
faces. They're they're scarier than hell. And then you get the cartoon. It's like, what just happened? But like you said, they friendlied up a lot of stuff. I guess maybe they want to scare the kids too much. I don't know.
But it certainly didn't help too. They didn't, and I always like praising the hell out of Filmation because it's the best. But it just kind of made you feel like they weren't trying too hard with the voices. And I think Lou Scheimer, God rest his soul, did the voices for Too Bad, Cyclone, Mossman, and Spike. Or probably, I think that was Spike, or that was Lou Scheimer as well. And you just kind of felt like as good and gifted as Lou was with his voices of doing um, Mechaneck and Disappearing Dragons and Stratos and King Randor and I liked his Triclops. He did a good job on Triclops. So he was very talented with his voice work, and I just felt like, why is that Too Bad? Cyclone had one good voice in one episode, and after that it wasn't any good after that. Same thing with Mechaneck. And I asked James one time, I was like, what the hell's with the differences in all the voices? And his answer
Cringer
was that
didn't even Cringer suffer that too, and you'd think how
at,
could Cringer, but didn't he?
at times, I mean, because everything was better in season one. Like even though we didn't have the wide range of like heroes and villains that are in season two that really expanded the evil warriors and the heroic warriors. Cringer sounded so good in season one, and then you get to episodes like Frady Cat, and it almost kind of felt like it's Alan Oppenheimer doing the voice, but it just doesn't sound like the Cringer that we have all come to love and just see. That's Cringer, and and I often feel like, are there others that felt this? I know others have touched on they felt the same way this season two, where there was a serious drop in quality, but I almost feel like it didn't start out that way in season two, and I don't feel like that's a point that I've emphasized enough, because the first half of season two we'd been given some great episodes. Everybody's being portrayed quite menacing, but then there's this kind of, as we all know, that gradual drop in quality where Skeletor becomes very, very rambunctious and up to adolescent hijinks, as opposed to being the Lord of Destruction, and
If only things could have kept how it was early
and
on in season
God,
one.
it's just, it kind of makes you wonder, like, would things have been different had season two not been tweaked and changed so much in terms of the content,
It
you
really
know.
does. It makes you wonder in those, hypothetical situations. We always like saying that if the parent groups didn't get involved to, make it to where the cartoons got sugar coated, what could they have been? What other things maybe could they have wrote for the characters to try to make it a little more edgy, and maybe their voices and some of the ways they were portrayed. But I guess that's that unfortunate thing that we'll never know, which sucks. But yeah, it would be nice to know what could it have been.
Oh, I mean, hell, Clawful was portrayed very well in both seasons, and he's in more episodes than you think, and every episode he's got a good menacing voice, and is always portrayed, even though he's getting his ass kicked by He-Man, he still comes off as one of Skeletor's very well respected evil warriors, and as a threatening character. Like, well, why is it Clawful's maintain, and Cobra Khan? Cobra Khan's another one that was maintained a stable, menacing persona, and Web Store, I think, maintained that as well. But Beastman and Trapjaw
They became
became
punching bags.
they did, and like you just kind of feel like why is it all the bad guys that just got to become just silly and just complete morons?
And especially out of all some of them, especially Beast Man, to be that ferocious looking.
Oh man,
He's a
you know
Beast Man.
I
I
was
just,
I was I was watching Diamond Disappearance today, and it's a point. It just made me think that I need to mention this on the podcast. You go back and watch that episode, and you hear how John Irwin portrays Beastman's voice with that constant growl when he's talking, some or even when he's standing there listening to Skeletor, and he's just growling, and then that kind of that as you wish, Skeletor,
yeah,
just very, I mean, just grisly, like you're like, God, man,
yeah.
that's the Beast Man that we need. And then season 2 comes along, and I forgot what episode it is, but um, where Skeletor's like just constantly looking at Beastman while he's talking to someone else, and Beastman's like cowering in fear. Like each time he looks at him, like, where's the Beastman that was ready to stab Skeletor in the back any chance he got, man?
Yeah.
It's an archetype that we all love because everybody loves Starscream. I love Starscream too, and it was so cool to see Beastman. And I saw Beastman do it first because I watch He-Man first, and He-Man gets priority over everything. But it's just cool to see Beastman was portrayed so strong and competent, and it's just so sad to see Trapjaw and Beastman just become just slipping on banana peels, so to speak. I mean,
I
I
know.
know we've said this many times on the podcast, but and don't get me wrong, we're not saying this to slight Filmation. If you listen to this podcast, I hope Filmation is the highest in terms of quality and storytelling above anything else He-Man, right next to the He-Man live action movie. But it just bothers me so much that it could have been so good, and it just gets so silly.
Well, yeah, the perfect world we could have had, possibly. Like I said, well, I guess we'll always leave that up in the air. That's what makes for fun debates and thoughts and, what could have been. But yeah, so, well, hey, well, there's that beginning part that we did. So we talked about Day of the Comet and did our SAG rants, which we always love to do too. But now we'll talk about Prisoner in the Slime Pit. Now, this one, if I'm not mistaken, I know that mine came with an audio cassette. I honestly can't remember if it also had a record because some of them gave you different versions. They
Mm-hmm.
gave you the record or the audio tape. Mine came with an audio tape, but I there's a couple of interpretations of characters in the book that their drawings looked weird, like Modulok in one particular splash page always was kind of
Yep.
weird to me. But I admit it's still nice looking art. I'm not bragging on the art at all. But it starts off, of course, of even showing the slime pit and describing the slime pit. And of course, Hordak's plan of, wanting to get He-Man and turn him into his, slime monster slave. So he has a plot that a plan that he's going to have some of the Horde troopers. This is what I thought was kind of funny that I picked in the story. And it's not putting the story down by any means, but the part of they're going to have like the Horde troopers, go into Castle Grayskull and steal some book and then take it, with them. And then it's going to leave He-Man to come after the book. And then they show like a panel, I believe it's He-Man. And I think it does have, well, the Comet Warriors. And they're describing them as being like at the window of Castle Grayskull as the drapes are blowing. Which, of course, there's no drapes, but I'm always thinking, I don't like the thought of hearing of drapes in Castle Grayskull's window. But He-Man, he then finds out that yes, somebody broke into the Castle Grayskull library and stole one of these magic books. I'm like, how the hell did they get into Castle Grayskull so easily? And they stole the book. It's like they made it seem like it was too easily accessible to get into Castle Grayskull. But also, since this was drawn and looks like the same, type of people that worked on, Battle Under Snake Mountain, they have this thing to where it makes it look like He-Man's always living in Castle Grayskull, at
Yeah.
least most of the time. And you do not see a Prince Adam, you do not see the transformation. But his plot is to bait and trap and get He-Man to come to Etheria to get this. They find out that it's, the prince of some Horde troopers, which this book has some of the most unique, weird looking Horde troopers that you'd ever see. Again, I won't show you in case you guys ever want to, look this up yourself, find the book, or you can even go on the org and read the story. But there's unique Horde troopers, which I'm going to pass something to you, Tyler. It always confused me as a kid, and still even now slightly does. And I'm not saying I'm right, you're right, wrong, or nothing. But beyond the Horde troopers, they showed these other, like, it almost looked like goblin monster
Mm-hmm.
creatures that are peering off on the rocks, and they're looking. But then they still always refer to just the Horde troopers. And then, they talk about how the Horde troopers have this special, nice, very shiny looking armor, whatever. And in one panel towards the end, I think you see a shot where like the Horde Trooper's head, it looks like
Yeah.
you're seeing under his neck, and it looks fleshy. I almost came under the assumption of were these Goblin Trooper warriors or whatever that were looking over the rocks. Did they put on the armor and don the armor of these Horde Troopers, or were they a whole separate set of scouts? But they never said that. They just always described Horde Troopers. So I wondered, were these unarmored Horde Troopers, or just something they never name dropped?
I kind of took it, and I didn't have this as a kid. This is something I had to see as an adult. I took it as almost kind of like lumping together this kind of goblin-like group along with these metallic-looking humanoid troopers. And even though this is kind of one of those books, like the Golden Books, like the hardcover Golden Books, where you're getting more story than what the pictures can give you. So you almost feel like maybe the writer is kind of given a few pinpoints and you just draw this, and hopefully it kind of matches up. I like to think of it as that, even though the slime pit comes out the same year as the Horde Troopers, kind of makes you wonder, had they not been given the Horde Trooper action figure to draw into the book, almost as if like we haven't
I have the
finalized it
book.
yet.
Do you think I should show the fans just in case? Because this is not a common book. Maybe I should
Well,
show
hey,
them
look
those
at it
stories.
this way: if people are listening to it through Podbean or on iTunes, they're going to have to go look it up anyway. So if they want
Hey, and
to
it might
check,
even make them look and link us up too on YouTube.
yeah,
But I have to show them first. This is Prisoner in the Slime Pit. This is the heart. I mean the soft cover of the book. But these things are so unique that I just have to show them. And He-Man's talking to one of them right there. Can you see that? Okay, Tyler.
yep, I can see them.
See, and as you can see, these look absolutely nothing like the Horde Troopers we know. So you're right. Were they not giving, or excuse me, were they not ready to be shown as a reference from pictures or something? But I assume they would have by that time because my God, we have Blue Hordak. I mean,
Yeah,
I just it's different. It's weird when you see things that you just don't expect. But it used to drive me nuts. But yeah, they especially teased you when you looked at that one page that has Grizzlor, Montana, Leech, Modulok, and then poor Dragstore. He's all the way stuck in the corner. It's like he's never in the story. Did you
well,
ever?
I didn't. I wait. Let me see that. I
Yeah,
didn't
look.
catch him.
Tell me if you can see Dragstore there.
Okay. I clearly didn't. I didn't catch him on that one
Yeah, so
because I
Dragstore
well,
made it appear.
I had to read it by individual pages on the org. So
Yeah.
I didn't because the story's on the other side. So I didn't catch that Dragstore. Well, all right all right now that reopens the question up even further because Drax was part of the 86 wave along with the Horde Troopers and the Slime Pit. There should be no reason why,
Why are
unless
they
the
so
Horde
weird?
Troopers were the last to be finalized in terms of development and what their visual the style was going to look like, that the artists on this book had to come up with something to fill in the gap.
Yeah, because
Because it
it's
doesn't make
nothing.
sense that
Yeah, you're
Drax was
right.
there and the Horde Troopers are not. And the Rock Warriors are there for crying out loud. So look, we're
Exactly.
dealing with a good part of the 86 lineup except the Horde Troopers not being drawn correctly. So some there was clearly something missing in communication here.
I mean, vastly missing. I've never seen something so drastic. I mean, this was illustrated by Pablo and Judith Marcos, which I believe I told you at one time. I thought they used to be husband and wife, but I think it was father and daughter who drew this up together. I believe that's how it was because I have there's a splash page in the middle that has when He-Man's he's getting ready to get put into the slime pit by
Yeah.
those Horde troopers. I actually have like that original piece, and I have that it was bought through Facebook. There was somebody in the group that got a hold of a lot of some of this original art, and I have that kind of like in a black and white grayscale, whatever you want to call it. But it's cool to have an original piece from this. But those are some of the weirdest things. It was just like I said, this one shot towards the end when He-Man's punching one of them in his jaw. You see the helmet, like his head go back, and it seems like he's, believe it or not, wearing a mask just like this, and underneath it's all fleshy underneath, which just had me wondering, is it them damn creatures? Because them creatures are gray and look fleshy. But again, it's just something that as a kid used to drive me nuts. And even as an adult, I always wondered what was up with them damn creatures.
I mean, it's another testament to the constant evolving toy line property that that's what we're here for. This line was constantly evolving as it's being produced, like changes are being made, and that's why you see so many canons, and not just in the states, but in various countries. Why certain characters are a certain way, or you see certain characters on the wrong side, or Star Marvel Comics has got Squeeze working for the Horde and referring to Hordak as, yeah, boss, whatever you say, boss, as if like he's 1930s gangster. There's just constant, inconsistencies, but that's what I think kind of adds to a lot of the charm is when you see Horde Troopers like that, as if like, well, that's odd. And I'm sure like a lot of fans would say, why can't we get figures of that? Let's
I've heard some
expand
people.
and make the Horde Troopers even more. Let's get
Oh,
more
why
Horde Troopers,
not?
but yeah, why
Yeah,
not?
because I've heard people say they would love to have those. I wish I could remember. It's something I think from a possible. I think it's Marvel, but they compared those Horde troopers and their weird bullet heads to some other cartoon or some other comic canon, and I cannot for the life of me remember what it was. But I remember when I posted that picture years ago on Facebook, they're like, "Hey, it reminds me of this," and damn it, I just can't remember what it was. It just so that's why I passed to you. I was like, I wonder if Tyler would think, "Hey, that kind of looks like something from DC or Marvel." I mean,
Okay, I was gonna say I was trying to I was thinking you said Marvel, but I wonder if
like, I mean, I'll just talk for a
well,
second as I'm showing it. Does that
I mean that kind of just for some kind of reminds me of Dark Side
is that what
almost
maybe?
like.
Okay, I just thought they said
But
something.
Darkseid doesn't have a bullet head. His head's kind of rounded up at the top there. But the blue gray motif is kind of reminiscent
Sure.
of Darkseid. Just the color scheme. I won't say that he's a spitting image of
No,
Darkseid by
no,
any
no. I know
means.
what you mean with the color scheme, but yeah, that bullet head just they set a character, and I'll be honest, I mean that was a
And they
couple years
also kind of
ago.
remind me of the Palace Guards from Black Star, even though they have those characters have got like the bird beak, but just the blue gray design reminds me of the Palace Guards, which those things look so badass from Black Star.
As a yeah, that shit. So no, this no prisoner in the slime pit. Like I said, I mean we again don't want to ruin the whole story for so you could just find it and you could read it on the or
Yeah.
just search eBay for it if you want a physical one because these are the ones that don't come up too much. As Prisoner in the Slime Pit and Battle Under Snake Mountain, those ones they're not as common as some of the other kid stuff and golden books that you'd see. So but yeah, by any means, if you can at least buy it physically or catch it on the org, definitely read it. It's well worth it. So, but now I'm going to pass to you, Tyler. There's a couple topics you had that I'll pass it to however which one you want to go to.
Yeah, I'll this is gonna be our fight night on Fans of Power podcast, and one of the things that we fans love to see is see these characters beat the hell out of each other, and we don't get to see it a whole lot, but there have been plenty of fights, and I'm sure for some fans, some fights mean more to you than others do, and some fights may mean more to you than that one does to me. It all just kind of depends on what you're looking for in your fights because no, we have not had like massively long choreographed fights even in animation and the live action movie. We get some good fights. They don't last as long as we'd hope they would, but a lot of them are still quite memorable. So I wanted to throw out to Joe was we kind of throw back and people who are listening to us and even later on, get your brain thinking like, what are the fights that leave an impression on you? I mean, for me, our good buddy Larry Houston
Oh God, did he do man?
illustrated some of the best
Whew.
kick-ass fights in the He-Man mythology with
Don't
Clash
even
of
need
Arms and
dialogue. Don't even
yeah,
need
no
dialogue
dialogue
for
at
it.
all. Slave City, his fight with Lodar and with Garn,
Darn, yeah, yeah.
badass fights and Clash of Arms speaks for itself. Hordak's the mini comic, um, and then I mean I the live action movie is another go to of He Man taking on all the evil warriors at the junkyard where Beastman grabs a hold of him and he knocks the hell out of him and then has a sword fight with Blade and then takes Sword and throws him into Blade. It's just a fight that
Yeah. Yeah, like you said, it's
what
not
was
even fight.
supposed to be longer according to Anthony DeLongis, but obviously they don't get as much time with it. So
Right, and it's not like you said. It's not that these fights have to last a long time. Just some can be memorable, even in a couple panels. I mean, you could just even think of the Terror of Triclops with everything that he did
yes,
in that kind of like, my God, he beat the living hell out of everybody, from Ram Man to Battle Cat to even Tila, and he was taking He Man to the shed too. So I mean, that was a great one. Same thing with Menace of Trapjaw when he's fighting and Skeletor and He Man have
yeah,
to team up to take out Trapjaw, and like there was like I think I just liked because of the gimmicks. Again, sometimes when you have the toys and you can relate it to looking, like I always remember in the Terraclaw Strike when He-Man just started going nuts with his fists flying like crazy, and he's fighting Skeletor, and Skeletor's going, back and forth with his claws, and he just bam, he like goes under the claw attack to like uppercut, I think Skeletor, and knock his claw off. It's like there's some cool little moments in a lot of these comics, and of course, like you said, the movie cartoon, but those comics had some really good ones as well.
They did. They had, and I will say, above all the mini comics, Larry's the one that hammered home like all the great fights. I know. I mean, Bruce Timm did some good ones. With like Search for Killer, those are great. But in terms of like long lasting fights, Larry's on king of the mountain on that one
Oh
because
yeah,
all the ones,
because
yeah, like Battle of Roboto, where Roboto takes on Two Bad and Skeletor, they reprogram him. Then he goes around and starts beating the hell out of Tila and throws back the Bashosaurus.
I
You
think that
know,
is what's most memorable. I mean, when I think about it, I mean, Larry, it's like how he said, you could tell a story without words. And his comics that he worked on did some of the most story without words that you could ever see because his fights, they're right in front of your eyes and they're no pun intended, hitting you right in your face. I mean, you are seeing what's going on. That's why you do remember in Clash of Arms, in Slave City. You memorize, I mean, not memorize, but you remember these fights because it was a lot of good back and forth. Not some of the typical bam, one swing somebody's done or 1-2. It's some stuff that would go on for a good amount of panels, and
yeah, I
that's
mean,
why it was fun.
He Man may throw the Two Bad off to the side, but like one of my favorite ones is where Two Bad grabs old He Man, then He Man like throws Two Bad over his head, and then he immediately starts breaking into a sword fight with Skeletor, and then the fight continues on because they got to stop Roboto, and Two Bad keeps coming back, um, and then oh god, I was trying to think some of the others then too.
Well, I'll bring up
Uh,
something real quick. I was gonna say first now in the cartoon, like you said, sometimes the fights couldn't last as long as you'd wish. I mean, like there's one I know. Again, you're not a super fan, but I did enjoy watching She-Ra and Maylog go back and forth because it seemed
mhm.
like it was lasting.
Well,
But
but see, that's the point though, is that the good story behind these fights to me kind of enhances what's going on there, and like for me, the assault on Castle Grayskull and Diamond Ray Disappearance is one of my all time favorite fights because even though the heroic warriors show up, I get so excited. Always did as a kid when the Evil Wars pull down the drawbridge and He Man and Baraka are standing there as alpha as
I love
hell,
that. Yeah,
and
I
just
like
staring
that.
him down. And like next time you might try knocking him first.
That
God,
was cool.
that is the most iconic alpha male. I mean, just the calmness and confidence in He Man.
You know,
And then it cuts to Skeletor looking pissed off. Panther's got this look like I'm gonna rip He Man's throat out, and Beastman just ground and takes off after him, and then he
yeah.
just comes charging out and grabs a hold of Beast. Like God, it's
I
just
love
epic
that
as
how he
hell.
yeah he held them up like
Yes,
that. That was cool. You're right. There's those fights that, especially when some have it to where we've said before, where it's like got you hanging on the edge of your seat and feels like things like people are these are in dire straits and what's going to happen. It's just like when everybody was fighting Shigora. That one I
yeah,
told you scared the shit out of me. I was like, what are they going to do? It's like, oh my god, the evil warriors and the heroic warriors have to team up to get this son of a gun and knock him back in his dimension. That was what now that to me was at least some of the most memorable because that was going on. There was a lot of fighting, but that scene inside of Castle Grayskull, how could you forget that moment of that big son of a gun who's beating the hell out of everybody who turned sorceress into his like little harpy slave? It was just whew. And I don't know. And one other quick thing, I don't know if Grimbot is teasing us with something or if this is something he's serious. He said, just let me finish the whole thing and then I'll pass it to you, Tyler. He said He-Man versus Strong Arm above Pool of
yes,
Molten Photanium. He said, too bad that never got made. What does
yes.
he mean
That
about
that
that?
that was the deleted sequence. I believe it was storyboarded as well, where the fight Cheatham and the Phantos was going to go on a lot longer. And I mean, it doesn't last very long, but yes, it was supposed to go on where they're fighting over molten photanium. Where I mean, imagine strong arm like swinging his massive right fist, trying to knock He-Man into it, and He-Man's jumping around on the beam, trying to avoid being knocked into it, and then eventually gets trapped into a tomb of photanium. I mean, yeah, when I learned about that, I'm like, oh my god, man, that just would have been just incredible because Strongarm has such a memorable appearance in Cheetah and the Phantoms. But to know that we were supposed to have got a longer fight sequence with Strongarm and He Man, because Strongarm was one of the few guys that took on He Man and successfully, like he beat him. He beat He Man, and given the dialogue, you're led to believe that it took a long time for He Man to break out of that photanium tomb. Like you know, from what Man at Arms and Tiller said that they were working on chipping away and breaking away the tomb, and it's not working. So it makes you feel like He Man was defeated. It just took him a while to get out of it. But Strong Arm is one of the few guys to take on He Man right there on the spot and beat him. and he did it.
Now we have to say, because Grimbot, we know he's the master of animation. That's your new title now. You have to be the master of animation. But we know that you know of this stuff, the behind the scenes deleted stuff. You got to bring it to life for us, Grimbot. You got to draw
Or
some of
yeah,
these things that we
give
never.
us a sample of what it would look like of strong arm, either getting ready to swing at He Man, or him swinging and He Man's either ducking it or smacking the fist out of the way, or give us something
Yeah,
along
because
those
I'm sure,
lines.
like you said, the battle, even though it wasn't there, it probably would have been quick, but it still would have been epic as hell, probably to have in the episode, as short lived as it could have been. So, there, I'll put that in your head. And I wanted to give to you, Tyler, right now in the chat room, some people were mentioning some of their either fights they would love to see or fights that they did see. So, I'm going to say, like, right now, Zentron was saying he would love to see Evelyn versus Shadow Weaver.
Yeah,
That would
I would have
be
loved to
one.
have seen that. Yeah,
That would have been a hell of a fun fight. So, Zen Brown, well, yeah, well, it's funny. Yeah, he mentioned he said one of his favorite fights was Triclops and Battle Cat. Oh, you bet. I mean, especially like I said, he knocks him out with a punch. He was taking him out pretty quick. Let me see. Your favorite blockhead said Fisto defeating Clotho and Fisto in the arena. He says, but not able to defeat Whiplash. Always entertained him. And he said He-Man saves the day. Oh yeah, that's our go-to, man. Blockhead. When me and Tyler talk about a fight, we love when Fisto's battling them all and seeing that Whiplash would have probably killed Fisto, no
yeah,
doubt.
yeah. But just knowing that it exhausted him to beat Clawful Jitsu. Plus, not to mention, Fisto got his ass kicked, taking on Webstore, Clawful, Jitsu, and Triclops all at the same time. So he's been thrown into the ring and had to go through the gauntlet of these evil wars, and then to be on the brink of elimination by Whiplash just goes to show you he can hang, but
He was
can't
hanging.
go can't go through all of them. And
That was my
I mean
favorite portrayal of Whiplash of anything. Was that in Clash of Arms? Absolutely
that
loved it.
Yeah, that one and Betrayal of Stratos. Like I think those are his most prime appearances because he's very menacing in that. And this in Clash of Arms, he's just a brute force. And
Yes.
uh, to touch on too, the fights of He-Man and Skeletor. I mean, the cream of the crop. We've got the fantastic battle at the end of the live action movie where Skeletor becomes a god after his Oscar worthy speech of taunting He Man becoming a god, and then they duke it out, on the throne of Grayskull and knocking Skeletor down to the pit. You've got
When he
Skeletor and
gets
He Man. What's
yeah,
that?
I was going to, not to cut you off, but
Yes,
remember, yeah, when
Evelyn's
he gets the
plot.
court,
Yes,
there you go. I knew you were
yes,
going to bring it
yes,
up. That was the one.
yes. God, and nobody ever talks about that episode. Fans do not reference that episode ever.
That's
And I'm
unbelievable, especially that's when Skeletor was pretty close strong to being like He-Man, having that Korodite fashioned into his, armor, crest or his, bones.
and to duke it out inside a volcanic cave. You can't get more epic than that. And
Was
just
that your whole power versus power line that you loved, or
yeah,
what he said?
yeah, the
Yeah.
one that Alan Oppenheimer refused to write. Come face me, He-Man, power against power. And yet our good friend Thomas went to Texas, or lives in
You got
Texas,
what you wanted.
and got what I wanted from Alan Oppenheimer. No big deal. I got the autograph over there of I was supposed to have gotten. The one that I did get, I have yet to put in a frame, and I had him autograph a blow up of. Let me get it here.
Okay, yeah, no problem. You can grab it.
This. I had this blown up of Skeletor holding the card over the fire.
Ah,
I
yes.
had the image blown up, and I just lost it in me to put it up because I just felt like I was punched in the stomach when Alan refused to write all that.
Well,
Quite
he was.
embarrassing, but that was such a memorable Skeletor He-Man fight. The live action movie. I mean everything about Diamond Ray's disappearance, that assault on Grayskull, Evil Seed. That to me, even though it's not a one-on-one fight, I mean they are fighting against him. But in terms of like one-on-one fights, and even breaking it down, like that brief moment where Triclops is choking He-Man and Diamond Ray disappearance, and the Robot Knights are approaching, and it thanks Rayman for knocking him out, and it just knocks the hell out of Triclops. As a kid, that's why Triclops, I hold him in such high regard because he was physically strangling He-Man, and He-Man was struggling to break his grip, and that it just took He-Man all of his might to just get him off. And it's stuff like that I'll never forget because
Yeah.
it was just telling me that Triclops is the baddest of the bad. Of the original Fab Five Evil Warriors, to me, Triclops has always been my favorite because of that single moment where He-Man is struggling to break his stranglehold that he's got
And
on
damn
him.
it, he got pretty short-changed when it came to season 2, didn't he? There wasn't
God,
much
he
of.
just in general, he's only in. I think. I think in season 2, he's only in. He's in Betrayal of Stratos. He's in Three on a Dare. God, I almost want to say that's his last appearance. I think is
But they
Three on
still
a
weren't
Dare.
memorable episodes with. I mean, him. It was a memorable parts for him in those episodes, though, was it?
I mean, it was cool. I was so happy to see him in Portrayal of Stratus because they're all like the original kind of quartet of Skeletor, Beastman, Trapjaw, Triclops are assaulting Avion. So it was cool to see him, but he doesn't do much. Whiplash gets most of the action in that episode. But Three on a Dare, I mean, when I first saw him, hey, Triclops is back, and doesn't really do much. You get that
Yeah.
famous panning shot of all the evil warriors standing on top of each other's shoulders from slipping on the grease that they're slipping on.
And
But
especially to go from what we were saying earlier, his amazing mini comic portrayal, to then in the cartoon to where you barely got anything. It's like, wow, that's a shame. That all we get is like a choking scene that is showing, wow, look what this guy could do, and then just nothing. Dismissed later as just, maybe he was too boring, maybe he was too bland. I have
I
no
don't get
clue.
it, and he's used on a couple of occasions, like the Time Corridor, where he gets to use different, Distivision and stuff like that, and teaming up with Fangman, um, and then MYP. MYP gave us a lot of memorable fights too, from the 2-on-1 fight in Underworld with Skeletor
Oh,
taking on He-Man and Randor.
and just to
Uh,
mention you that, Jeff Prime said in the chat room, he said the first episode of MYP season 2 where He-Man takes on everyone was epic. So
Damn right it was.
yeah.
That's still one of my absolute favorites because of that long ass fight of He-Man just taking on all three giants, all the evil warriors, Marzo, Skeletor, and having a brief sword fight with Triclops, a brief sword fight with Marzo, flipping Whiplash over his back and just clotheslining, Clawful and just knocking everyone all over the place. Just a big battle royal. With Monster Within, when you got Tuvar and Badger taking on He-Man, and they beat him. Tuvar beats He-Man, and you just like, man, it just shows you how badass Tuvar and Badger were to take on He-Man successfully. And just if Manny Faces hadn't been there and the Evil Warriors hadn't been jealous, Tuvar and Badger would have been quite successful in winning. I don't know what I think Tuvar would have been the one to have successfully got He-Man back to Snake Mountain because of all the technology he uses and weapons, whereas Badger's a little bit more uh, simplistic in his methods. He just kind of uses basic booby traps and brute strength. Tuvar's got the Predator equipment, is what I like to call it, where he's using invisibility and cloaking devices and gas bombs and shock devices and things like that to take down He-Man and electrically charged bolo. I guess, well, just a bolo that's electrically charged and shocks He-Man. I mean, with that, and then you've got oh God, there's the fight at the first part of Council of Evil when the evil warriors go down into that cavern or the uh, canyon, and they get stopped by the heroic warriors, and He-Man traps them and takes them all on by himself. That was a pretty good fight.
NYP, it seemed like it was loaded with, well, more fights that seemed like, well, I don't like the flipping and zipping and all that crap.
No,
That's
I
the part
can't
I could
stand that
not
crap.
stand. I
No.
mean, especially everybody was flipping. I remember they went way over the top when we seen that, like, in the first episode, or, like when you're seeing Mechanic flipping and doing everything. And then
God,
you're seeing, it's
everybody
like,
when that episode came out, everybody had the same complaint. Enough with the weapon flipping, and God, that
and
sequence of Man
twirling.
Arm stuck in the fish's belly would just wouldn't stop.
Yes, and the damn weapon twirling. It was like, it's too much. Like, okay, I get it. They can flip in the air 100 yards or 100 feet. They can spin the weapons. When the fighting gets down, of course, in some of the later episodes, it's fun. But I think maybe they were trying to dazzle your eyes with that. But it did
Yeah, they were
nothing
trying
for me.
too hard with that one. Whereas something like an Underworld, where Skeletor's sword fighting with Randor and then kicks him on his ass, and with that awesome sweep kick that he does, and he just looks so badass that way, where he just spins around and sweeps Randor, slashes down, and then He-Man blocks the sword, and then Skeletor, without hesitation, charges at him with his swords, and then charges both of them, and gets stuck in between. And He-Man is struggling to disarm him, and so is Randor. They finally do, but just knowing that Skeletor is taking on the most powerful man in the universe, and King Randor,
That was a good fight. You
and
should.
not
Yeah,
and
I
not
think we'll leak
yeah,
that. We got to link that probably, like maybe when we're done, maybe in the chat or the comments, because that was a good fight. I know it's on YouTube, but we'll have to
Yeah, the
show
whole
that
episode's
you're
on
right.
YouTube. Yeah, but
Yeah, you're right.
God, that's
Skeletor taking it to both King Randor and He-Man. I was like, pretty damn impressive. That was a
it
really good
is.
fight.
It was
Yeah.
so memorable, and I feel like that's another part that just gets overlooked in MYP. I mean, people like to reference certain elements of MYP, and I'm like, you know, I don't agree with some of it, but there was a lot of stuff I feel like they got right, and
Oh, they
that's
did. I mean,
certain
just
that.
I mean, same thing like you said when we're talking about filmation. I mean, there's a lot of fantastic episodes. There's some that are just
Yeah, there's
bland.
duds everywhere.
Yeah.
Every from She-Ra to He-Man to New Adventures to MYP, there are turds in every animated series. I mean, they're obviously the great outweighs the bad. New Adventures probably would be argued differently, but it just
Sorry,
I mean I'm
sorry.
sorry, no one is going to support me on New Adventures for the most part, and I'm not going to try and defend the cartoon. I always defend the story, the canon, and the characters. That's what I'm always going to defend. The cartoon, it's hard to defend. I feel like I'd be John Larroquette's character on Night Court trying to defend,
I do
the
want to say
cartoon.
I do want to say one thing about MYP because, like, we were talking, and I mean, just loved the whole look. I loved the music, had great atmosphere and great episodes. But like I said, there's some stinkers, just like for anything. But the one that we talked about that I just was like, like razzing you last week was talking about the island because
Oh
I know you
God.
hate it. So you know what's funny? I'm just like you. I had not seen the island since it first appeared. I was like, I'm gonna have to put this on and watch it just to see was it really as bad as we thought. And I put it on, and it was. What a horrible, horrible
And they
episode.
followed that up with Snake Pit. How
Yeah,
the hell do you
what
follow an episode like Snake Pit up with The
Yeah,
Island?
I tell you, if you guys, if those who are listening or watching us live now or anything, if you like the island, I'd love to. Again, I hope if you like it, enjoy it. That's great. But I'd like to know maybe what was it that you loved so much about it? Because God, it felt so off. It was so bland. It was. I mean, it was just boring. And then the parts with Clawful's cousins,
Yeah,
and
I
then
don't want to hear that someone says, "Well, it was cool because they expanded on Clawful's like species and he's
and
got
I'm going to
family." I'm
talk
like,
about
no,
that.
I don't want to hear that. I do not want to hear that.
And that's what I'm going to talk about that annoyed me. I hated that they, clack, 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 clack to contact Clawful so they can
Oh
let them
God, I
know.
forgot
Here's the
all
thing.
about that.
I'm going to get to this. They do this clicking so they can contact Clawful. Like the message just starts reverberating through the water and stuff. And eventually, Clawful is inside Snake Mountain with Evelyn, standing over that little pool of water that's in Snake Mountain. And he goes, well, what's that clicking? And then Evelyn says, that's the language of your people. And then he says, just a line that drove me nuts. He said, I was never good at spelling. I was like, what
Jesus
does that?
Christ,
I was like, what does
God.
that have to do with? I was like, so you're so. Not only did they make him so stupid, which I couldn't stand because he looks so badass and imposing, but not only did they make him stupid when he talks, he doesn't even understand the clicking. He refers to it as spelling. Then when they have to relay, or when Skeletor tells him to relay a message back to his cousins, he looks all stumped, and Evelyn says, I'll tell you how to do it. I was like, really? Clawful is absolutely that dumb? I mean, it was not fun. It just felt like just insulting some characters, but it was not a good episode. And I seen that goofy, super long necked young Tila you were talking
Wasn't
about.
wasn't that odd looking?
I even had to screen cap it. I'll post it on my wall for people. I was like,
God,
why is her neck? It looks so long. Like she's sitting there in her chair, and it looked like the neck went all the way up in her hair. I was like,
yeah,
what?
it's very
What is
very weird.
Oh, that is weird. But yeah, I just want to let you know after we talked about that and I was raising you on the island, I watched it and it did not get any better at all through
God, I
this
was
year.
afraid you're going to say, Tyler, I don't know what you're talking about, man. I was like, I've already started customizing a young Tila and Clawful's cousins. They'll be on eBay in 6 months. I'm like, oh my God. Or that you're going to say, Tyler, we should do a commentary. Like, hell no, we ain't doing commentary for the island.
And it just felt too, what was it? It just didn't feel like I was in a world of fantasy. Like, especially when they're sitting at the beginning and you see Decker and he's relaying to his one old friend next to him about, being with King Randor and Man at Arms when they were younger. And then the guy's like, oh, you know King Randor? He's like, oh, Randy? Like he calls him Randy. I was like, it just felt so out of place. Like, oh, King Randor. Yeah, I called him Randy. I was like,
That's
oh,
why I
this is.
felt like some of the writing in NYP sounded too close to our culture. Like
That one did it. That one did,
yeah, or
especially
like
in
when
that part.
yeah, that, and then when Adam says "Go, Dad" in Underworld, I'm like, They don't talk like us.
Right? I know, just
Yeah,
yeah, exactly.
just don't say stupid stuff like that. Even when it came out, I'm like, go, Dad. I mean, God, are you telling me you can't write a fantasy show without? And that's what worries me about a new He-Man movie is that they're gonna be talking like that. They'll be talking like kids who how they currently talk now. That they'll be doing fist bumps and all that other nonsense, and talking
Are they going
like
to have
how
an Are they going to have an attorney version of, like, maybe a phone or a tablet? And they're going to text LOL to each other, but it's like, oh no, let's
because they
hope not.
think this will make the teenagers laugh and giggle because they have their own version of social media too on Eternia. Like, God help us all.
Well, hey, at least we know that nothing still happened, even though it's supposed to be in
Oh yeah,
April. We're
it
way
ain't
past.
happening.
Oh, and
But
just to let you know, April, we went past May. We're now in June. So, well, that says that.
oh
Also,
yeah, but I'm sure there's some people out there who's like, but it's happening, Joe. Just want you to
yeah,
know, man. I found this article that's about a year and a half old that says a new movie's coming. So I'm going to
that
share it
happened.
with all these other social media groups and let everyone know. And I'll tag Joe and say, I found it. It's
It
happening.
happens
You
every
know,
time. It's going to be unfortunate. Zen
God,
Brown, or excuse me, not Zen Brown, but Zentron. I don't think we can do what you asked, but he said that's why we should do commentary for the island. I don't think
no,
we
no,
can.
no, 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 no. Rest assured, if there ever comes a time
It's not going
where
to be pretty.
I mean, we have run out of ideas, we have run out of episodes to do. I mean, I don't feel like subjecting fans to me just being pissed off again on
I
another
think we could
episode.
get, like you said, we could get better stories off of the Burger King cups that we could read and then interpret that what we have there. And
I'll read you all four of them if you like,
yep, and
as opposed to doing the island.
we'll fill in gaps that aren't there, or probably what could have happened, and we'll just evolve that story. We'll turn that little 3 panel thing on the Burger King cup into a half-hour story. But no,
Yeah,
so
I just I know, and I will say this, Joe and I, when we say we would do commentaries for every episode, at some point, which just shows you how long we can keep this podcast going. I mean,
yeah,
look how many episodes we do before we do a commentary.
yeah,
So
it'll
we
happen at some point.
it'll happen at some point, I'm sure. But knowing that we have exhausted all the filmation of both He-Man and She-Ra, and
New adventures
maybe go
and
back through the cycle again, do commentaries again, because I almost feel like some episodes are worth going back and revisiting on live commentary anyway.
yeah.
But yeah, we'll have to do Underworld at some point. We'll have to do probably the beginning of MYP, like the 3-parter. At some point, we'll have to do Buzz Off's Pride. We'll have to do Council of Evil Part 1 and 2 in The Last Stand. I mean, we're gonna be doing all the good stuff before we just like, is this it? Is this almost like how Filmation ended He-Man with the Cold Zone? I guess that's how we'll end the podcast with the commentary for the island. Like, we're not even sure this is the end of the podcast, but when people look back, like, man, the podcast was going on for so long, and then they ended on such a downer, but doing a commentary about one of the worst episodes of NYP, man. Like, they should have given us like a great send-off episode, you know. But that's how we'll end ours. We'll just when the podcast is over, the island commentary will be our way of saying that's all we got.
What a way to send off here! I can't believe they ended the. I can't believe they ended their podcast with that episode. Just like we say that about episodes of the cartoons. Like, really? But all right, well, that's that part now. So, what is the final topic you wanted to hit everybody with?
Yeah, I had done the essentials in a long time, and for long listeners, a while back, I did one on Cobra Khan and I did one on Skeletor, and I would ask Joe, what are your top 3 interpretations or stories of a particular character? That if you were going to introduce a fan who was not as familiar or wanted to learn more about, what would you say? All right, you want to know more about this character? Watch this or read this to kind of get an idea of why this character is so badass and what makes the character such a likable character. And I chose Web Store.
Well,
Joe, do you have
well,
if you were introduced Joe Schmo from Toledo, Ohio, or parts unknown,
well,
and he
obviously
was
from
like,
Filmation, I mean, you have to see Cat and the Spider if you're gonna see something with Web Store. To see him doing something is at least accomplishing a lot. Hell, even seeing what I can't remember if Grimbot or James ever told me, but I remember I said he's flying around in a Wind Raider that looks like it
mm-hmm.
has spider legs. I'm gonna call that the Spider Raider. I don't know if it actually has a name, but you got to see even a different version of the Wind Raider. But you get to see him well portrayed in that. In the comics, there was there was a one time, at least maybe the way he was drawn by Bruce Timm when he was with Cobra Khan, and just the look of him. But I honestly, out of my memory, because I was trying to remember from the mini comics and I didn't grab the comics, I was like, what the hell issue was that, and what did he accomplish anything? So I didn't go to the comics. I'll be honest, I don't remember which one, but I just know that Bruce Timm drew it because I know that damn art, and I know he was side by side with Cobra Khan, and he just
But
looked
the only mini comic they were side by side together with was in the Rock People to the Rescue, drawn by Larry Houston.
shit,
Now,
shit,
Joe, you just you, James, and Deuce and teamed up on me this week for my mistake of
hit
misspelling
me, hit me,
Thrall's
go
name. And
hit me.
I told you, if you screw up, I'm going to let you be embarrassed and
Good.
expose you to the light of justice as the
He's a
monster that
fraud.
you are
He's a
in front of
fraud.
all the good people listening to this podcast. So
Joe's a
now, people,
fraud.
here Joe has just embarrassed himself. You
So it
know,
wasn't. Damn, I thought for some reason it was Bruce Timm. Who the hell? Which Bruce Timm comic am I thinking of with Web Store looking evil? He looked. I thought he looked really dark and detailed. And damn, why did I think the
here,
names? That,
I think I got a picture of what you're talking about right now.
help me out because I feel stupid. I thought he was right next to
Oh no,
Cobra Khan.
you're stupid, all right.
Thank you. Yeah, please help me. I want to know that damn. Could you tip it?
All right,
Who's he? Isn't he next to somebody?
yeah. Can you see
Isn't
him?
it?
Is it?
Yeah, isn't he next to Cobra Khan?
Yeah, that's from Rock
What?
People to the Rescue, drawn by Larry Houston.
Oh shit! What did I? Oh damn! Well, Larry, you did an amazing job. God, I feel bad that I said I gave credit to Bruce Timm. Why the hell did
And
I
I'm
give?
going to tag Larry in this, whether he
Oh, don't you
watches
do
or
it!
not. I have no
Why did I?
idea, but
Now I got to figure out which comic I'm thinking of. Did Bruce Timm draw Web Store? Now I got to know that. Did he?
not that I know of. No, I don't
Oh
think
my
so.
god, I'm a complete moron. Oh my god, I apologize that for everybody. Jesus, I just hey Larry, I'm
Well,
sorry.
if you look at the comics that Webster appeared in, he appeared in Clash of Arms, he appeared in Eye of the Storm, Rock People to the Rescue. God, I think that was it. I think that was all of Webster's appearances in the mini comics because he didn't appear in any of the Horde themed ones. He didn't appear in Hordax mini comic where you got a lot of the Evil Warriors there. He didn't appear in any of the '86 wave except Eye of the Storm. And then in the last year of '87, didn't appear in the Cosmic Key, didn't appear in Search for Keldor. Buzzsaw Hordak didn't appear in that, and Revenge of the Snake Man, he didn't appear in that either. So I think it was just those three books, and Larry drew them twice, and drew them, I mean, just to make fun of a motto, just perfect.
Let me just say, my bad. So yeah,
Yeah,
well, hey,
so James and Deuce, so when you guys want to look to Joe as like someone that you guys can use in like a 3-on-1 match against me, let me know
here we
that
go.
in a elimination match, a Survivor Series match, Joe's the first one being eliminated in a match with me.
Thanks a
So
lot. I knew
or
that. Hey,
thrown
I
over
knew.
the top rope first. I don't care however you look. Joe's the first one leaving that ring.
I just gave reference to the wrong artist. I knew the picture. I knew what I meant, and you did too. But I said the wrong artist.
Oh
So
yeah, and it
whoops.
is in all seriousness. That's one of the most menacing looks I've ever seen a web
Yes.
store.
And as for at least the other time I seen him interpreted where he was doing stuff where he was competent was Power from the Sky. He seemed like he was actually accomplishing stuff when he was capturing Prince Adam, even though they didn't show how he made the webbing and it looked more like a net.
Yeah,
But they made it sound like he was making the webbing, and then later on in the comic, he did the same thing when he captured somebody else in that comic. I'm sorry, in that book. I just can't remember who it was, but in that issue, at least everything he was doing was pretty competent along the way of helping Skeletor. As Skeletor wanted to get the power from when all the moons were, their suns were covering the moon, and whoever was standing on the palace at that time in that spot would get the power, of the kingdom. So he was helping Skeletor almost to that exact point until, of course, He-Man then knocks Skeletor out. They have their fight, and then King Grandor gets the power, like shot to him as being ruler. But he did help everything along the way from Power from the Sky, which I mean, I know it's not one that many people reference or maybe have read,
but
but
that's the
it's
whole
still
point. That's the point is you know the character, so what would you recommend? And that's the whole point of the essentials. Is
yeah.
just what do you point to fans who are not as familiar with him or may just have the figure and haven't seen him depicted in any of the media? What would they go to?
Yeah. So
Um,
there, those are at least three that I would choose. I know Tyler probably has three completely different choices, but those are three that at least boom popped into my head, I guess.
oh, first thing comes to mind is Disappearing Dragons, man.
Okay.
Disappearing Dragons, and that's going to be a go-to for me. God, I can't wait to do a commentary on that, and I'm going to have to ask James about that. Why he did not give that episode a perfect 10 out of 10 score,
What did he give it?
7 out of 10, which is still a high score, but to me, it's absolute perfection. He didn't give a perfect score to many episodes. I think he gave it to 2, I think. But to
Okay.
me, Disappearing Dragons deserves a higher score, so I'll give him a piece of my mind on that one.
Okay.
And then, so that one, um, I had a couple in mind. Probably will say he's not featured so much in Clash of Arms, and I can't really. I almost feel like it's probably not the best to use that one, so I'm probably gonna go with Rock People to the Rescue.
Okay.
And then, probably, and I've never been as big a fan of it because of the biggest reason why people like the episode, just because I felt like she was such an overrated character. But Joe is correct, and I'll say it because I agree with those points. Is Cat and Spider,
Okay.
because you do see Webster use his grappling pack to get in and out. He is the master of escape. So in this episode, that's what you see him do. You don't see him really do a whole lot of that throughout the series. You see him there with Cobra Khan, or well, yeah, because he's with Cobra Khan on in Secret of the Sword and Disappearing Dragons and Journey to Stone City. So, but this is the one episode where you see him hanging around like a spider when Skeletor's asking him to go take on this new mission, and sneaking in and out of the palace, and jumping Katrina from behind,
Yeah, I get
stealing the Grimalkin and getting out. That is a very good depiction of what we expect Webster to be doing. But I will say in NYP, so that's why I was kind of hesitant, because Council of Evil Part 2 depicts Webster a little bit more prominently. I don't like Web of Evil because he dies due to a stomach ache. What a piss poor way to kill off such a beloved character. Eating ambrosia. Oh, give me a tummy ache. Oh, just craps out. Nah. Yeah, I'll probably go with that. I was going to say Council of Evil Part 2 because he looks so cool in it. I like the voice that was used for Webster, but I'm, God. You know what? I'm going to say Council of Evil Part 2. That's what I'll say. I'll say Disappearing Dragons, Council of Evil Part 2, and Rock People to the Rescue. And then Webster has given some pretty good appearances in other canons, like in the Rock Warriors, the Golden Book, Joe said Power from the Sky. Um, don't think. Oh, he's featured in A River of Ruin, but he's not really given a whole lot to do. You see him using his grappling hook in that, like throwing it. It looks cool. But those would be my 3 for Webster. Like if I wanted to let someone know what this character was about, I would go to that.
it. Okay.
Um, and
Those are
maybe
all
show them
great.
the card art from the vintage figure, because that's a badass looking card art, man.
No, it is, and I think even on the card art, like he doesn't have that little. Isn't like the symbol missing off his chest? I always thought there was something off when he's swinging from his card art, and he has the armor, but I always thought that little symbol wasn't there. Am I right or
Yeah,
am I wrong?
hang on. I've got him over here. Hang on one second. I'll grab him.
Okay, yeah, just I knew that there was things used to drive me nuts. As amazing as that card art was, which I love the pose and how he's swinging, I was like, I just didn't think that it had that little red symbol or whatever the hell that little thing is right in the middle, the red or orange symbol. Oh, it kind of glared, unfortunately. Is it there or not?
He's
Oh, wait,
got the
I'll wait.
symbol. It's just not colored in. Let me take him out. I got him in a. Here's a plug from Zolo World. These
There you
protective
go.
cases for your vintage figures. There, free
Great
plug for
cases.
Zolo World.
Those are great cases, too.
Yeah, yeah. I love this. Is one of my favorite men on card figures. But yeah, right there, as you can see, he's got his armor on, but just the star on his chest is not
Yeah,
colored
that's
in.
what I
It's
meant.
not colored red and orange.
It always looked awkward. I mean, it just looked different, because like
I
when
mean,
you look at the.
well, to me, it makes it look more menacing that he's just almost like the dark blue and the dark purple. It makes him great for being kind of camouflaged at night because he's wearing nothing but dark colors.
Yeah,
You
because
know,
like if you look at the figure itself, you know that okay, you see how it has that, on the card art, it has that big symbol. But even on the armor of the figure, I think there's a big outline of a symbol, but then there's the red symbol
yeah.
in that symbol itself. So I always felt like something was missing, but I do love that look and interpretation. So I'm glad at least you had it and I wasn't insane on one thing.
Well,
I
no,
feel
no, because I when you said that, I'm like, yeah, yeah, there's because it's not like the spitting image of like the web store on the shelf where it's got the orange, or the
yeah,
kind of like the light orange and the red
and the
orange,
reddish. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. So I
symbol,
meant it was
yeah,
like a The combo color. Well, thank you for really showing me that. And again, I feel bad about saying Bruce Timm instead of Larry. And I think the reason that threw me off was I know that Bruce Timm, I think, did at least the inking or coloring, or he did something on that. So
Yeah.
I just threw him all the
Oh,
credit. So
I will say this: like for a long time, I thought Bruce Timm did the Powers of Grayskull mini comic, like for years until I'm like, wait, no, Larry did that one, But for the longest time, because there was a similarity to Bruce's in that, but now I see it's like the elephant in the room. Like, how the hell did I get that confused with
yeah,
Bruce Timm's
I
artwork?
feel
Bruce
bad.
is,
I love the art. Yes, I do love it that Larry did. I just feel bad that I name dropped the wrong person. So I mean, they kind of together made the art, but yes, it
well,
was
just
drawn
just
out by
say
Larry.
that you'll watch the X-Men animated series since Larry was the man behind that, and I think I'll be right.
I have to watch that, Larry. My bad. I'm sorry.
There you go. All right,
I feel
I
bad.
think Larry will just get a good laugh out of that and say, "No problem, kid."
Like, whoops. So, but all right. Well, let me see. I think I was
Do we
just
have
seeing if
questions
there's
from the fans or anything like that?
um. I mean, if you guys want, yeah, Jeff Prime saying poor Joe. Yeah, man, I feel bad. I don't like it. It's happened before with. I mean, like I said, Tyler razzes me. I razz him, like on Facebook when he'll do something. Such a shit we do to each other. I always do that.
Just don't get
But
up and leave, whatever you do.
that's it. Like, oh, you made me look stupid. Okay, I'm getting the hell out of here
This
now.
podcast is over and flips over
That's it. I'll
everything. And
show you Gino Diachile and I'll show you Earl Norm. I'll show you those covers. I'm out of here. No, because that ain't nothing amazing, but there's a couple of those four original Golden Book, the soft cover ones, where at times Tyler thought it was Earl Norm that did
yeah,
all the covers. And I said, no, there's four particular covers. I was like, I always as a kid could tell they were different. They just had Caverns of Fear. I was like, and you could see there's a different look. And you find out the artist. I told him, I said his name is Gino Diachile, and then he looked and he's like, Joe, you're right. When you look at him close now, you can see the differences. So you
yeah.
can drastically now see who's Earl Norm, or excuse me, Earl Norm, and who's Gino. So no, it's just things, yeah, we all pick up, but that's what's fun. It's always nice to find out who did art for stuff, who did penciling and inking, just like as crazy and as horrible that Leech mini comic is. Where God, it just what a story. I remember when we did that on the podcast the one time. Somebody on Facebook contacted me. It was one of the guys who worked on the comic. It said he knew his buddy. He mentioned the guy's name. I'd have to look through back on the post, but he said who drew it up. I was like, no way. I was like, nobody's ever knew who the hell drew the Leech, power, the master of power suction unleashed or whatever, and nobody knew the one about Mantenna. Nobody knew that, but it's the same artist that did them
Yeah.
both. I was like, oh, we found out something through the podcast again, which was kind of cool. But well, let me see. I'm going to see if there's any questions in the chat room. People were like, yeah, they're picking on me. But let's see. Zentron said, least favorite moment in He-Man and She-Ra cartoons and why? So, well, do you have a least favorite moment for He-Man and She-Ra in the cartoon? I mean,
For
each cartoon?
He-Man, I guess we're assuming filmation here. Probably God. That season two's got a bunch of them. Um, I probably would. It sounds kind of cliche, and I feel like after I say it, I'm probably going to regret it because I feel like there's another one that could top it. But the greatest show on Eternia. You know, it's an unbearable episode. The premise, you just kind of feel like they just weren't trying anymore. It would just really felt like.
I mean, what did you like about it? Could you, I mean, everything or just a particular part? Or
Or okay, or I just need to give a specific moment, like something
yeah,
that
maybe
really
just
just. Oh,
yeah, because he
okay,
said a
all
least
right,
favorite moment.
yeah.
Yeah, he said least favorite moment.
Okay. I should have a little deeper. Sorry, bud. Least favorite moment. Um, God. Um, there was quite a few in that one. Give me a second here because I want to take advantage of this. People ask this question. I want to give them something good. Um, Probably. I mean, Spike Wars taunt from the games. I when I watched it, I was kind of going along with it, and when I first saw it, I was like, but it was just still cool to see Spikor. And then when he's kind of taunting Fisto, you kind of roll your eyes, and then he does like this kind of stomping gesture, like he's lost, and just this kind of like jumping up and down and being pissed off. it just felt like, oh my god,
Yeah,
it
especially when
was.
you might be expecting something more out of that character,
Well,
and that's
look at
what you get.
Spiker for
Yeah,
God's sake. When you see him jumping up and down like he's throwing a tantrum, that that that's I mean, and we all know it's been talked about so many times, but I'll say specifically, Spiker throwing that tantrum of jumping up and down. That's a pretty sad moment where I just felt like such a great looking villain is stomping his feet. You expect him to be on his back and kicking and screaming and stuff like that. And as for Shira, um, I didn't like Snoutspout's voice. That's
I
something that I didn't like it at all. And I just when I look at the character, I'm like, oh man,
and
Snoutspout,
and
so
I can
cool.
see that, especially when you're seeing characters and you're expecting something like when you're talking about Spike, or I mean, what a what a buzzkill letdown. Just what a horrible moment when you, like I said, see him throwing a tantrum, when you, especially knowing you can see how he looks in like comics like Spike or Strikes or
Oh
some of these
God,
other ones.
that's. I don't think I could ever do a Spike or Strikes Essential because there's not too many sources where you can go to like good like kick ass solid Spike or stories. But
Epitome,
that was
yeah, epitome of evil looking and how he should be, and then going into the cartoon, it's like that's what we got in the cartoon. But no, I agree with you with those. Mine, it's actually going to be a 2-for-1 for She-Ra and He-Man because they were in this episode together. It was Assault on the Hive. For
oh
me,
yeah,
yep,
and that's
and
it's good
that's
for cameos, but that's about it. That
well, yeah,
episode.
and yeah, like it's the last time you seen Skeletor in the cartoon period. Any cartoons, that was the last appearance of Skeletor. But no, as for me, I'm a lover of the meteors. To finally have the meteors in the cartoon, I was like, well, wait a second. This could be damn interesting. You're seeing a red one being chased by a couple dinosaurs, and the red one ends up being Comet Cat. And of course, their size, it's not the size in compared to how it was in the toys in issue 2 of the Star Marvel, to where they look Battle Cat size, or excuse me, Cringer size. They're big boys. He Man's on them like he's on a big old Battle Cat. And to see that when Comet Cat, as you just said with Snoutspout, when he spoke, I was like, that's his voice. I was like, yeah. It was this just nerdiest voice. I'm
Whiny
like,
voice.
yeah, I was like, wow, the gigantic, monstrous looking Comet Cat had this nerdy, whiny. Damned, it pissed me off. And also to see that when they transformed, all it was the head coming up. No legs, no front legs, back legs, no tail of looking. Damn, look at this. Just he stands up almost straight on his egg, if you will, and then the head comes out. What a damn letdown. So for me, that was the biggest letdown was in the episode because He-Man was in it, She-Ra was in it, and here came the meteors with the worst thing you could ever imagine seeing. I mean, if there's something that would not help give a good image to the meteorbs, that sure didn't help. It's like they deserve something a lot better. So not only do people not get a kick out of the toys, if they remember that episode, they're like, oh, yeah, they were just kind of goofy looking. And that red one, what a dork. When he's the most expensive meteorb to find is Comet Cat. It's like, what a kick in the balls.
Yeah, I mean all that. I mean because when I saw that ad in Star Marvel Comics of that beautiful painting of 32 new bold inventions, you've got Two Bad and Whiplash and Roboto and Webstore and Cyclone and Mossman and Strider all depict on this beautiful painting, and that told me that they were in the cartoon. So when you wait years and years and years to see what Too Bad finally sounds like,
Mm.
and that was the thing I was probably the most excited for when I got that bootleg set on VHS, was to see what Too Bad. Like I was looking to where I could find Too Bad, and then I see Spike or not too long after that. I'm like, oh God, it just broke my heart. I'm like, oh my God, they sound like such dorks.
Yeah,
Both heads sounded like dorks.
it was a hot
God.
mess. That was a hot mess and unfortunate. But
And it looked like the toy, but they made it just look, you they got that smile and the big doughy eyes, and
yeah, they sillied up the
oh
face and they sure just joked up the voices. It did not help either of them, especially from being he's too bad. Like, come on now, let's have this badass character. Let's have some wickedness, something. At least have a frightening, but not. But they, I just always hate those duh voices. It's just,
oh God.
but
As
but
if
no,
like someone like Skeletor would hire morons, you
right?
know.
You would not think so exactly, but then it's like then it gives him he's surrounded by morons crap. So unfortunate. Um,
Whatever.
all right, well, we got one more question and then we can kind of wrap it up. Brad Collins said, what news person Okay, said, yeah, what news personally would you like to be revealed at PowerCon? Uh, I I'm gonna pass it to Tyler because I always keep saying about the same thing that will never happen, which is almost referencing what I just said, which it hasn't happened in the entire run of the line, so I'm not gonna say it. I'll pass it to you, Tyler, to say what you want to say first, and maybe I'll think of something else besides the typical.
God, after the abomination Thundercats roaring, I don't know what to say about She-Ra, but I would almost say I would love to know that a new He-Man cartoon was coming. I'm not interested in a movie because by this point I just don't want it to happen because they're not going to do it right. A cartoon feels like you'd have a better chance of getting a quality entertainment, but the way they keep treating our beloved '80s properties is nothing more than we're just going to cash in the name and say, "Oh, we're not making it for you, but we're using something that only adults are familiar with." That all that nonsense. But I would say cartoon, but um, I mean, I'm always looking forward to new classic figures, and I'd like to see, um, just how deep we can go. I'd love to think that maybe the licensing for the live action movie has been allowed for Super Seven to make,
Yeah, we've
the
been wanting
live
that
action.
for a while too. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I mean, at least, I mean, I know we're getting Karg. I'm happy with that, but to give us, and God, I almost feel like saying, Azrock and Spydra, but there's no way in hell that's happening. But yeah, that's what I would like to see is the live action figures being allowed for us to get, the robot troops and the Centurions and the robot warlords and movie versions of He-Man and Skeletor. Get a Beastman, get a Anthony DeLongis style blade with a very accurate face. Even though I'm
Then
more
we
than happy
got
with the figure.
Skeletor and He-Man and versions of them and those troopers and everything. Yeah, there'd be some
Yeah, the
there.
all of it. I just anything from that movie, Lubick. Any of it, that's something that I always felt like it's still possible. I
Oh,
mean, what
sure,
had,
sure.
but
I
but
think
yeah,
we could.
but just give me more figures. That's what I hope we get more of it. Just tell us we're getting two more batches of another batch of Filmation figures and another batch of classic figures. I'll be happy with that. But yeah, the movie figures will be cool.
All right. Okay. No, if they, I'd just freak out if they had movie figures. As for
Yeah.
me, besides figures and besides any news on movies and this and that and whatever, there's a vehicle that needs to be released, and that's the land shark. And I'm going to say it because, my God, I could imagine how wicked the horseman could make it. Joe Amaro, how amazing that could be. Because we have enough heroic vehicles. And yes, we got Rotan, which is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
But I seem like there's more heroic things than evil things. And, with Battle Ram, with the Sky Slash Jet Sledge, you could have evil and good on it. But no, Skeletor needs his damn land shark. If they could announce a land shark or another vehicle like, sure, would I love Spydor? Hell yeah. Would I love Mantisaur so Hordak can finally have his steed? Hell yeah, I'd love it. But I think we need a damn land shark. But if
Well,
the
say I will
Mantisaur
argue
can't do
that,
it,
but I'd almost feel like what I would love for us to get some of the accessories, like the
well, those would
stilt
be great
stalkers,
too. Still,
like
Mega
the scuba
Laser.
attack, the tower
Yeah, but
tools,
I just would love to have a badass another vehicle. Damn, if I could have that
and
land
yeah,
shark, it was
and the land shark would be my go to because we're getting Stridor, thank
oh,
God.
could you imagine
So
how the horseman could up the wickedness on that damn land shark? Oh,
it
especially
it,
like
it
your love of Jaws, and the
oh yeah.
ferocity of something like that. Imagine sharp ass teeth sculpted and a real angry looking face as you push it and it's snapping as it's going. That would keep that feature. Rotom kept its feature
I'll say
extremely.
I would almost prefer like just being able to pause the land shark jaw to open up and you can pose it however you want, wide open or closed. That's what I would
Well,
prefer.
hey,
I would be
picture
broken
that.
hearted if it didn't move.
Well, no, I mean, but it still would be cool as shit. But picture that. I
It
mean, you know
would,
how it
yeah.
is. As you're pushing the land shark, it starts going, and then you can just leave it in that pose. And if you keep going, snaps down. So you could still get that open and close effect of posing. But just to push it, I would just love kids, like, thus us that have kids or nieces and nephews or anything, let them experience that kind of fun ass stuff we had when we did the land shark. I used to love having him snapping at He Man, and he would eventually catch him. It was just fun for a toy, but it would look even cooler as for a classic.
As long as it ain't like no $120 and we're given like another man at arms variant to go along with the damn thing. That's what's
No
kept me
more.
from getting all the other stuff. Even though Talon Fighter came down a lot, I never got around to getting it. It's a
Shh.
punch in the stomach when what? What?
I'm going to show something. Zen Brown just mentioned something. I don't know if you guys know this, and I think you do, Tyler. he said he would love to see the actual dungeon grate. Remember that the Horseman did sculpt the dungeon grate for Castle Grayskull, but remember it was never released with that set. Remember when we were promised no more stickers? You know, those
Oh
creatures that
yeah,
came out?
yeah.
Okay. Did you guys in the chat room, did you know that that sculpture did make it on to an actual official piece that was released on a toy? I mean, did you know that, Tyler? I might have showed you before, but did you know this?
That sounds familiar, but I can't
Okay.
say like
Well, if you can
specifics.
talk for 30 seconds, I'm gonna grab it because I have it. And I was like, what a what a damn tease to have the dungeon grate, but not on a Masters of the Universe thing, but on something that Mattel owns. So hold on 1 second while I plop this down and I grab this.
All right.
I'll be
Well,
right.
I'll just say that as a brief teaser, James E. Talk will be joining us next week, and we'll be doing some filmation discussions and stuff that he's got a hold of that he's going to share with the masses. So, a teaser for next week, and he will be coming on the podcast to
Okay,
announce
I'm
to the
about
masses.
10 seconds away from showing you guys something. Hold on.
And here I
I'm
was
almost
about
there.
ready to let everyone know what
Got
the
my
hell is going to happen next week, and Joe just keeps talking and interrupting me here.
right. Sorry. Okay, can you guys hold on? I gotta click that damn button. I don't want to get off here. Okay. Okay, you guys can see me?
Yes.
Okay. Imaginext, which Fisher Price does. As you know, Imaginext has been doing a lot of hidden Masters of the Universe related things, from like a Roton, a Spydor,
All right. Well,
to
hey,
even
while you're doing that, I'll be right back, Joe.
okay, to even like they have a slime pit that's coming out, and it's going to be for a Batman type of Imaginext thing. But the slime pit looks pretty close to our vintage slime pit, but different. But they've had so many hidden things. Now, I don't know if this is going to show up, but they put this hidden spot on the bottom of here. And I'm going to try to zoom it in, but I'm going to talk and see if it can come up. But at the bottom of this set, where there's a switch to where you turn, where you turn it on and off, you can see the dungeon grate. But I don't know how well that is showing up. I'm trying to look. Okay, yeah, I think you guys. Oh, let me back it up a little bit. And sorry about the shaky hands. But if you guys look closely, you could see all the sculpting of the creatures and the monsters that are down there. That's what happened to it. So if you're ever wondering, hey, I would love to have the dungeon crate from Castle Grayskull that was sculpted by the Four Horsemen, you guys have it right here. Isn't that crazy? A lot of people didn't know this, but that's on this Imaginext, whatever the hell this tower set was. I couldn't remember. I got it, I think, at, believe it or not, it was Myers or Kroger's. It was like dirt cheap. I think they had it for like $8 at the time, because they usually will sometimes clearance out stuff. If things don't sell that well, you can almost get them for nothing. So that's how I got this set. But yeah, I was waiting for Tyler to come back so he can get a look, because I don't know if he ever seen it, but this is the actual piece that the Horseman sculpted, and it ended up on this. Because some people were wondering, they said, "Well, I don't understand, Joe. How can they do that? It's Imaginext, Fisher Price, but remember, Mattel, I believe, owns Fisher Price, so that's how that happened." But Tyler, I was just showing them. Oh wait, let's see, he's getting back on now. No, like I said, it's right there. There's the dungeon grate. If you
Huh.
can see that perfectly, isn't that crazy? That's
Okay.
what the
No, I was not aware of that.
Yep, the Horseman sculpted this. This is what was going to be with Castle Grayskull. It didn't happen. So Imaginext, which is Fisher Price, which is owned by Mattel, hid it on the bottom of this set by that switch. It's the actual sculpt and everything. So I was telling them I got this. I think it was at Kroger's or Myers for around $7, $8 when it was clearanced out. And hell, if you wanted to have, I guess, the dungeon grade, if some people want to get clever and try to, see if they could cut this out, if they were that obsessed, you could get it, and you got yourself the dungeon grade. So it is kind of a cool little bonus Easter egg.
Pretty cool, man.
Yeah, it is. It is. It really was. When I heard about it, I was like, wow, I got to look at this. And it was $7, $8. So you guys go ahead, check online, check eBay, check your stores. You might be able to get that sucker for a super cheap price.
Awesome.
Yeah, so, well, that's pretty much it. And I didn't know if you had any closing thing you want to say. Well, before you do your closing, I was going to give you a quote, which is from Zentron. Oh, wait, no, not that one. I'm not going to say that one. Hold on. What's weird is I feel like I know this. He said, a double in case of trouble. I like it. Why do I feel like I should know that one?
I don't know that one.
A double in case of trouble. I like it. Damn it. Zentron, I don't know, and I know I should know that. And he's going to say it, and it'll probably be so damn easy. So you post that while Tyler says his closing things, and then we'll get his quote too. But anything you want to say in closing?
Be sure and if you're going to PowerCon, go to the powercon.com, I believe it's what it's called. Um, God, I'm gonna screw that up real quick.
Okay.
Yeah, I want to make sure I'm giving the right um, site to get those tickets. Hang on a second here, damn it.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, thepowercon.com. If you're interested in going to PowerCon in August, the tickets are available on thepower-con.com, and that's where you go get your tickets. Same site where you purchased your Filmation uh, figures of Chopper, Spikor, and Driel Montork. Kevin Sharp is currently taking offers to do commissions. So if you want some beautiful He-Man or Thundercat or G.I. Joe or superheroes, he's done it all. He's worked on it all. He's currently working on a He-Man piece for me right now. It's a combination of He-Man and some Thundercats thrown in there with dashes of or kind of hints at the original Clash of the Titans. That's all I'll say. But so if you'd like to have your own adventures put together, contact Kevin Sharp through Facebook. Um, and then Axel Jimenez has been working on a project. Uh, I forgot what it's called at the moment there, but it's on Facebook. If you go to Axel's Facebook page, or it looks like it's gonna be like a figure line and a comic book series that's very reminiscent of He-Man characters. Like you can see nods to Skeletor and Hero and Zodak, but they're all new characters, almost kind of like Four as a T almost. That's what it kind of makes me think of. But the name escapes me. But there's a Facebook page dedicated to that. Axel's doing the artwork and things like that too. So I suggest you guys go check that out. Axel, forgive me if you're listening to this. I apologize for not getting the name correct, but if they just go to his Facebook page, you should be able to find it pretty easy. Um, Other than that, I'll give a shout out to James. James E Talks, official He-Man YouTube channel. You get all kinds of fun videos on trivia and behind the scenes stuff. He's got episodes posted on there. His commentaries are on there for certain episodes. And I was telling him, Joe, that the good Reverend E Talk is going to be joining us next week. And not only will he be joining us, but he has confided that he will be coming out publicly and saying that Daymore the Demon is one of the most underrated episodes that's ever been created.
Oh, we're
And
gonna have
he's
a
going to
debate.
be in a way shaking my hand and say, Tyler, you know, I want to shake your hand through the internet because you have proved me wrong. You have shown me the light, and I'm going to go back and re-edit the Old Testament and the New Testament of the unofficial guide to He-Man and the official guide to He-Man and She-Ra, change his rating, and say that it was one of the best damn episodes ever been done.
And
Period.
everyone that's listening, either on iTunes or reruns or catching us live right now, everything Tyler just said that James will do is not going to happen. And when this episode happens next week, I'm going to sit back and be quiet the whole time these two go back and forth. Just keep that in mind. But yes, that'll be fun next week. And also, yes, it was History of the World. I remembered it now because you're right. That's
Never
when
seen it.
yeah, I love that damn movie. Mel Brooks is so sick, but that's when the king was going to get assassinated, and they realized that he looks like the piss boy, which is well, he's the guy that walks around with a bucket while people piss, and one guy flicks him a count the money, or he flicks a quarter in his bucket. It's so damn. He's like, Your Majesty, you look like the piss boy. And he looked at him. He's like, well, you look like a bucket of shit. But that's just so stupid. That's also where I got the name Josephus. Was my mom? She used to always call me Josephus from the guy in the movie that was called Josephus.
Oh,
So
okay, gotcha.
yeah. So, all right. Well, again, thank you everybody in the chat room for joining us. We really appreciate it. We love having you here. Hope you're here next week too. Hope you enjoyed this
Oh,
episode.
and you saying that we'll be recording earlier next week because James is on a different time zone.
Yes, 5 p.m.
So
our time, correct?
yeah,
Eastern, 5 p.m. Yeah,
yeah,
5.
that's the current schedule. So we'll be recording 5 p.m. Eastern time. As opposed to 9, 5
Yes,
o'clock. So we apologize for that. But to get James on at a time that works for him, it's going to be
yeah,
late where he's at and early where we're at. So we're trying to accommodate. So it'll be 5 p.m. next week.
exactly. So yes, thank you for reminding them of that. And now, well, now you know to be here earlier. So if you can make it. But all right. Well, again, we enjoyed having you guys. So until next time, have a powerful day.
Now, Martin, it's all psychological. You yell Barracuda. Everybody says, huh? What? You yell shark. We've got a panic on our hands on the 4th of July.
Well, there you go. It's a movie that we discussed earlier today. That's Jaws.
Joe was going to say, hey, yeah, I know that. That's Friday the 13th, Part 5.
Yes, it was when Jason jumped up out of the water. But okay, I'll see you guys next time.
All right. Oh, Nathan wanted us to hang around, just so you know.
All right, he'll have to click us off.